We are now calling to order the June regular meeting of the Alamana Kapa'apa Neighborhood Board. The purpose of the neighborhood board is to encourage civic engagement and to ensure that our neighborhood is a great place to live, work, play, and thrive. Going down through roll call. Rodney Chang.
Present.
Dyson Chi. He's running late.
Caroline Ferringer,
Present.
Emma Davis,
Present.
Lori Fairness,
Yes. Here I am.
Kim Iwamoto,
Kim Sokol.
Here.
Kathleen Lee,
Here.
Jean Rice,
Here.
Richard Webb,
Present.
Lynn Mariano.
Thank you. Okay, and we do want to introduce Camille, who is one of our newer neighborhood board assistants. So thank you for being here today. For those who have not yet signed in, we're looking to do a better job of tracking who's coming to these meetings. So if you see the sign up sheet in the front, please sign in if you have not yet. Public safety reports, Honolulu Fire Department. I know you folks submit your report via email, but if you're here, read it report. Right here. Yeah, we have a camera right here, so.
Oh.
Look at the mic or look at
It's
Scam. Okay. My name is Firefighter 1 Chan San from the Palau Fire Station. I'm just going to read statistics from April. Started with fires. We had 4 structure fires, 6 nuisance fires, considered rubbish fires outside a structure or vehicle, 2 cooking fires, 25 activated alarms. Going on to emergencies, we had 153 medicals, 1 motor vehicle collision with pedestrian, 4 motor vehicle crash, 2 ocean rescues. That is all for statistics for April. Going on to our fire safety tips. Our fire safety tip of the month is wildland fire awareness, prevention, and preparedness. Wildland fires significantly threaten Hawaii's landscapes, wildlife, and communities. With dry conditions and everyday activities contributing to the risk, it's crucial to take proactive measures to prevent and mitigate wildland fires. Some tips is lighten the load, reduce fuels and the possibility of ignition of your landscape by maintaining your yard and cleaning your gutters. Clear, cool, and contain. Clear vegetation 10 feet around campfires and barbecues. Keep a shovel and water nearby. Put them out cold before walking away. Watch the spark. Ensure machinery, chainsaws, weed trimmers, etc., and recreational vehicles with operating spark arresters are maintained regularly. You can learn more from these online resources at Honolulu or from hfdfire.honolulu.gov, Department of Emergency Management, honolulu.gov/DEM-Hawaii Fire Wildfire Management Organization. Sorry, that's another. Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization is hwmo.org/lookout. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Board members, Member Chang.
On the alarms that you're getting, we noticed that, as I live right next, the call alarms is, in the past, they told us that it was malicious by kids pulling the alarm. But this is still going on. So, I'd asked, I checked out, because it comes on all hours.
Yes, where we go to that.
So, yeah, is it an actual, somebody pulled the alarm, or is that the system is just so antiquated that it not functions?
I think Ms. Allen could probably answer more on this, but from my experience, it's a mix of a bunch of stuff. Yes.
So they did upgrade their system.
couple of their deliveries. If the alarm does go off, there usually is something happening. There's just, it is a lot of circle. So there's a lot of stuff they forget and stolen. So. I mean, I feel for you guys. You guys are bringing everybody to that place, because they're seniors. And, recently they've had several severe fires. And I live right now, I can see the fire coming out of the building. So you're saying that they did upgrade it, but they didn't upgrade it all? Well, 2 of the 3 buildings are upgraded. Because we're still hearing the ones. And I have a neighbor who's directly across. She gets my gear. Yeah. So I'm just, at least I have something. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Mariana.
Just a follow-up there. So on these false alarms, when we have, does that trigger our sprinkler system?
No.
No. Okay. Now, on the other part, so you keep hearing the statistic of it. Is it possible that you can also track how often you respond, also with EMS? Because there's a lot of calls, right? On this, it's fire and then EMS.
Yes.
I don't know if you're tracking it, because that kind of helps us as maybe one board and provide you some feedback. How, so it should support.
Our stats, majority of our calls are going to be with EMS. It's those emergency calls that we go to with EMS. EMS goes to a lot that we don't go. Right. But almost 90% of our calls are going to go with EMS.
Okay, and then the last part, there's been lots of illegal fireworks, particularly around this area. Yesterday, there was an incident in LA. We don't want that to happen here. Now you're responding to some of these, because I hear that graduation is around, take other type of festivity. But all of these homes, what can we do to help you get the word out from the board to ensure, other than saying illegal firing, because your protocol, responding to something like that, it makes a challenge.
I think that's basically the word that, for us, anyway, it's just that fireworks are going to be, aerial fireworks are going to be and very big. That's just our staff. So that's going to be your tip for next month. I do it for next month. We'll see. Just an FYI, I put it in association for the June edition that fireworks are illegal. That this is the one thing go wrong. So maybe other associations.
Because it's not the regular fireworks, some of them are making these $100. So those are the ones that's free. Particularly strap.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, board members? Committee members? Okay, Honolulu Fire Department, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honolulu Police Department, I see Lieutenant Segucio online.
Good evening, Chair Lee and everyone in attendance. Lieutenant Segucio representing the District 1 Community Area of Responsibility. I hope everyone had a really great Mother's Day and Memorial Day 3-day weekend. And without further ado, I'm just going to get right into the stats for the past month of April. So motor vehicle thefts were 20. The previous month was 21. Burglaries were 11. So there's up from 5 from the previous month. Thefts were 118. previous was 112. UMVs or car break-ins were 33. Previous to that was 20. Assaults were 12. Previous month was 20. 6 assaults were 1. Previous was 3. Graffiti cases were 1. Previous month was 2. Drug offense related arrests were 12. Previous to that was 7. So total cost for service for your area was 4,124 compared to the previous month of 4,015. Yeah. So for the month of April, there was an increase in burglaries in the area. So I looked into that information and passed that information to the crime reduction units, and they're actively working those cases. One of the high-profile burglaries that occurred was on May 19th, where suspects used a stolen vehicle and smashed the front doors of Ecotown at Moana Shopping Center. They got away with some jewelry, expensive watches, and some purses. Were taken. The Criminal Investigative Division unit of District 1 is working several leads in regards to that burglary, and surveillance footage was recovered. And just for your information, notice about the FestPack coming in June from the 6th to the 16th. The cited venue will be the convention center. So expect traffic in the area to increase during the convention, the events conventions. No active threat levels are related, but we're always, at HPD, we're taking all the proper precautions to err on the side of public safety. I know I will notify the chair if there's any impending issues as the event gets closer. The Chinuen Lantern Floating Festival just happened yesterday, and District 1 was on it. I reviewed the ops plan leading up to that day that was initiated by Lieutenant Haishin Lin, and it was very comprehensive, where public safety was paramount in detail. The estimated crowds yesterday was about 50,000. No major issues were reported. However, one issue that the board could possibly help us with, maybe have the city to restripe the faded crosswalks and parking stalls in the park, as well as the crosswalks in the surrounding areas of Alamana Boulevard. This is a recap of the question posed by Board Member Lynn Mariano last meeting in regards to the lane narrowing and other roadway issues resulting. I think that the restriping to darken and make the crosswalks more visible would greatly reduce near misses and pedestrian/vehicle collisions in the area, especially within those intersections. Yeah. The safety tip awareness for the month of May is in regards to spoofing scams. So these spoofing scams are somewhat disturbing due to the fact that the hooks that are being used by these criminals are involving law enforcement. Callers are being told that they're calling from some sort of law enforcement entity and they have an outstanding warrant or they missed jury duty. These criminals are using these number spoofing apps that can change the numbers, and they look like they're very legitimate numbers that they're calling from. Callers sound very official, but no law enforcement entity would contact anyone in regards to an outstanding warrant. Yeah, we would just rather just come and arrest you. Another giveaway of these types of cases, that the range that I've kind of noticed was $4,000 or less, and the payment request is usually through gift cards, money transfer, Venmo, or payment apps. So in some of these cases, some of the victims were chosen to were recently retired. The above mentioned commonalities were the general consensus being reported. HPD encourages our community members to be very vigilant and to be very skeptical of all these types of calls in regards to outstanding warrants, and if they're asking for payments through gift cards or any kind of money transfer. Most victims are embarrassed and don't report. However, I implore our community members to report the crime to authorities so that we can, track these spoofing scams a little bit better. Summer is right upon us, and with warmer weather, kids being out of school, there's a general trend of crime, especially thefts and car break-ins, to go slightly up. Major Komodo is entertaining the idea of bringing in an additional officer during peak hours of crime to combat all the above mentioned issues. Rest assured that HPD will continually evaluate the crime trends and act on the information accordingly. At this time, I'll yield back the rest of my time and take any questions from the board members and public attendees.
Thank you, Lieutenant Segusio. Board members, questions?
Hi, Lieutenant Segusio. Thank you for always joining us every month and updating us and keeping our community safe. I just have a quick question. Are you going to be here for the duration of the meeting? Because I do have a neighbor's concern I want to bring up, which involves the law, and I want to get some clarification from you, our expert. So it's
Absolutely. I think either Chair Lee or board member Mariano has my work email. If you can just forward that information to me, then I can respond to it. If it's comprehensive, unless the question is, if you just want to ask, I can answer.
Like, would be helpful for others to know.
Yeah, it's about the new streets, how 4 lanes have now been downgraded to just 1 lane on the street. So I just wanted to bring that up. Is this an appropriate time, Chair?
Yeah, I mean, if he's already.
Okay. And then I did I got some photos that were texted to me by my neighbor. Are you able to bring it up, Spencer?
Sure.
So I'm traversing down on Cook Street towards, from, Mackay to Malka. You know, we used to have 4 lanes. Thank you. And then now it's down to just 1 lane. So the main concern that my neighbor has, and I as well, is the new bike lanes. So where there was 1 lane and then a very comprehensive bike lane. So the photo on the right is on the intersection of Cook and Queen Street. And as you can see, hopefully, this is, I'm sorry, no.
The one on the left
The
is,
one on the right, let me repeat, Mariano. The photo on the right shows the intersection of Cook Street and Queen Street. So where there was once 2 lanes. Sorry.
yeah, on the left is Queen.
Okay, sorry.
You're good.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's you.
I'm sorry, I have a big head.
So on the left, so pardon me, so on the left is the intersection of Cook and Queen Street. And so where we used to have 2 lanes, now there's only 1 lane. So as you can see, there's a designated bike lane. And on the right, there's the dashed white lines. So here's a concern of my neighbor. So now that we're down to 1 lane, 1 lane allows you to travel forward, to make a left turn, and take a right turn. So now with the 1 lane and that solid line for the bike lane, what my neighbor has witnessed, and I myself recently, was that there'll be like a line of 5 cars, one's waiting to turn left, one wants to go straight, and another wants to go right. But people don't seem to understand that you're supposed to just stay in that right lane. So they've been passing on the right, not to just only do a right turn, but also to go around that 1 car that is stagnant, waiting to make their left or go straight. And I've seen it where there's almost an accident caused. And then when the first car behind the car that's wanting to turn left doesn't wait its turn and goes, and the 5 other cars, this is what I saw, 5 other cars would follow, and then the 3rd car is like, okay, so why am I waiting here? So I'm going to go now, and that's when the car was going to click. And then coming from the opposite side, when somebody's wanting to take a left turn, and again, you're supposed, my understanding is you wait in that single lane, you cannot traverse on that right-hand bike lane. So now this car swerved around, and as this person is coming from Malka side is trying to turn left on their side or right, then they almost hit each other. So I don't know if it's public education, I don't know if it's enforcement. And then on the photo on the right is the other intersection by Cook Street and the line. So there you have the white dashed line. So my understanding, you know, I'm by no means a lawyer, but my understanding is that you can do a right turn when it's your green light and enter into the bike lane, hence safely that there's no bikes coming, and do turn right. And again, my neighbor says now what's happened because it's down to a single lane. So again, we're going to go straight or we're going to turn left, and you are allowed to turn right, but cars staying in that lane, waiting for the left turn, are now going around to the right and then going straight. And again, it's so dangerous. And then, you know, we have all types of drivers, you know, elderly, myself, young kids. And I think the point is, with all these new safer streets, quote unquote safer streets, there seems to be a lack of education perhaps, or just even general knowledge, like from a driver, like, okay, am I able to cross into this non-dash line or dash line? Or to me, if it's just a single lane, then you're supposed to stay in the lane and just wait your turn when you can safely go forward, left, or take a right turn if it allows you to into the bike lane. So please educate me so that I can report back to my neighbor, and so that I can, you know, also know myself. And if it is a situation where it is breaking the law. Is there any type of public service or enforcement? And it's so much more on your plate, but, it seems to, it can be, I don't want to take it to that extreme, but because of not being aware or not paying attention or just really not really caring because they don't see that they're going to get any kind of repercussions for their actions. Yeah, I don't know. So sorry, you're on the hot seat. Thank you.
Is that a no right on red intersection too?
Yeah, no problem. So the photo on the left is the Cook and Queen Street. So in
Yes,
regards
correct.
to that, there's a safety hash mark zone to the right of the bike lane. So it takes up the whole that one right turn lane. Yeah. So bicycles have to obey all vehicular traffic, just like vehicles on the roadway. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously no going through the red lights, right turn on reds and all of that stuff. So in regard to the right turn at that location, vehicles can cross over on the bike lane, but they need to make sure that that bike lane is clear. So it's always a good idea to always look over your right shoulder and on your side mirror to make sure that there's no bikes coming up to that location. However, to get around that vehicle that's trying to make the left-hand turn, that wouldn't be plausible, especially if the car is kind of waiting towards the back of the crosswalk. If he pulls up into the intersection and there's room to get around, that's one thing. But just like I said, again, once you start making that movement, you got to make sure that there's no bike lanes. Now the picture on the right where they have the bike lane opposite and they have a right turn lane opposite of that in regards to the other straight and left-hand turn lane. Same thing. So vehicles can cross over the bike lane to get into that right-hand turn lane, but they cannot get into that right-hand turn lane and try to go straight. So they have to obey the directional markings on the roadway in regards to that. And that is a very good point because we keep getting numerous calls on that Cook Street narrowing in regards to even further down towards Mother Waldron, due to the fact that some of the no parking signs are still not up yet at that point in time, and they're calling about no parking issues, but we cannot enforce it due to the fact that some of the no parking signs aren't up at this point in time. But I guess they're considering that Cook is not a very major thoroughfare in regards to that narrowing or utilizing it as a bike thoroughfare, or they just must have a master plan in regards to the buildings going up in the area.
Okay, member Webb and then member Farringer, member Davis and then member Mariano.
Good evening, sir. I want to revisit a conversation we had last year about the situation going on Makalona between Moana Street and Kiamuku. It's getting excessively worse. With the drugs being used, shot up, daylight, all kinds of things. I've gone by there to that bar where that person was murdered last month. Their doors were open at like 5:30 in the morning. People were going in and out. The prostituting right there in front of that facility. Drug use is getting worse. It's not a good situation. It's really life-threatening to people to walk down that street because you don't know if they're shooting up. These people are going to jump you. Well, hey, I'm shooting up. You're looking at me. Let's go. I mean, their daughter was murdered there, right? We don't need that anymore. I mean, is there a way to, if you ask me personally, my opinion is that bar and that piece need to be shut down. Because they are allowing this to happen. And I've seen the drug users and dealers go out of that convenience store also. That bar should not be open at 5:30, 6 o'clock, when the door should never be open, especially the prostitute and the I've seen, the kid, when the doors down, or the standing. I mean, this is not a good situation, especially the tourists that street, to walk to Walmart, to walk after what you need. You're endangering, especially if you live there too. I mean, not just for everybody. So, just, I don't know, if more police presence needs to be there. If you need to post an officer there all the time. I mean, I know there's other things that need to be done, but this is really bad.
In regards to the location, I know exactly where you're talking about. Let me just explain something that's very, very ironic. So we have made notifications to the Liquor Commission in regards to these liquor establishments or illegal liquor establishments serving liquor. Sometimes there's situations supposedly they're underage drinking on premise. What we've been told is that some of these illegal liquor establishments have no license, so they're not in the purview for the liquor commission to enforce. So they pass those cases on to us. We try to generate as much cases in regards to these types of offenses, but we forward them and where after it gets forward, honestly, I don't really know where these types of cases end up going. But let me bring that information back to the narco vice division. As you know, in regards to that last murder that occurred over there, we actually caught the guy. Yeah. So I mean, sad to say, I mean it's a reactive situation. However, sometimes that's the kind of work we end up doing sometimes. Yeah. I mean, we cannot predict the types of offenses that's going to occur at a particular location. But in regards to shutting down these illegal bars, I think the state attorney general's office needs to get more involved in regards to this because it's a state law. I was proposing maybe even going into some sort of racketeering situation because they're utilizing alcohol sales in regards to proliferate other illegal activities on the premise. Yeah, but I'll bring it back to my narco vice division and Major Mike Lambert and try to see if we can initiate some sort of operations over there to address those issues.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.
As a note, member, I know Councilmember DeSantos Tam and Councilmember Topola had introduced some bills in City Council. I have not tracked it, my apologies, but I think Robin Hinsky, Councilmember DeSantos Tam is online today, so we can ask her about that.
Thank you.
Sure. Member Farringer?
Hi. Hi, Lieutenant. Thank you again, as always, for being here. I just want to concur with the former person that was speaking regarding Cook and Queen, that it is dangerous. I travel there very frequently. I've seen some people almost have an accident. I just want to note that while we're talking about that. But thank you. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. And anybody that's speaking at the meeting actually is, if it's possible to have them speak into the mic. It's a little bit difficult to hear online. So if they can speak into the mic, it would be helpful for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for the heads up, Member Farringer. Member David?
I mostly just, I think in hearing all of this, and it's something that we've talked about bringing to the action committee, and we're slowly moving through different topics. But just infrastructure in general, and this may predate me, but are any of these changes to, like, I'm thinking like the no turn on red or these lane changes, are any of those ever brought before us? Have you guys ever heard anything on them? Are we consulted at all? Or get to like talk about them with people who are making these plans? I'm not sure about that, but I'm curious that all these things are happening and we're like, why are these happening? But we're also not hearing any of the reasoning or thinking or strategic plan around why they're changing. And I'll be honest, not only myself, but I've seen a lot of other people almost hit more pedestrians at the no right on reds than I ever saw before when it was right on red, because especially when people are crossing the crosswalk from your blind spot area, it's green, I'm gonna go, but now people are also crossing at the same time. And it just seems really, to be honest, illogical. So I'm curious about that in general, but I didn't know if anybody else on the board or you have thought to that. But yeah, it seems like we're creating more challenges for ourselves by not talking about these things more thoroughly.
Member Mariano, who comments on that?
Yeah, okay, I mentioned this at the previous board meeting, but I do note, and I'm gonna make a correction to the minutes when we get around that. Because one of the things I recommended, particularly with Cook Street, the no right turn on red, it's a common sense approach that whoever start to push these laws, and it's like the part of it was Sarah that passed away in McKinley. It was a knee-jerk reaction. All of a sudden, all around McKinley High School, they put up these speed bumps, right? Now, speed bump right where Sarah passed away, God rest her soul. And, you know, some of our board members, we attended that, I think it's HPD. And I'll just keep this portion short. Now, around, McKinley High School, they put up these other speed bumps, supposed to be traffic calming. But there was no common sense that was put in, because these speed bumps, particularly on Pensacola, doesn't work. And when they strike the lanes, they do it crooked. They finally fixed the word pump. So that's an issue that we have to have, and I think, Madam Chair, we need to bring this up again to the mayor's office to do that. The thing on Cook Street, the narrowing of Cook Street. You know, I'm not sure what person used their common sense, because but the photo that was shown, what was not shown on that photo, further up about 25 meters are parked cars. And so what I mentioned, particularly around Cook Street, like we have on Kenow, when you come off the freeway, right? They have, during peak periods, don't park your car. And if you park your car during the peak period, the tow truck is there to tow your car away. And so wherever we put these bike lanes, we need to do the same thing. So that safety line that they put there on Cook Street, before they put the bike lane, before they put the traffic, you know, it doesn't work. Now, I would like to ask, Madam Chair, that the Neighborhood Commission go back and do a review of our meetings to see when did the city transportation and the state transportation come and present that plan to this neighborhood board. I would venture to say, if they did, I must have fallen asleep on that meeting, because I would have brought that up, just like I'm talking about Pensacola. There's still a plan to put more bike lanes and also angle park on Pensacola. Lieutenant Sugucio mentioned last night the landing, that's 60,000 people. Okay, it was really good. The plan that they put together was excellent. I mean, you know, I watch it because I live close by. But should there have been a major catastrophe, I could have planned for worst case scenarios. It would have been worse than or worse nightmare. So the street planning, the bike lanes and all that, we probably need to take a relook at that. And so the Cook Street thing, like Madam Chair, we have the neighborhood commission to find out when did they come and present that to us. And I also sit on the Metropolitan Planning Office, and we have our meeting this coming Wednesday. I mean, not this coming, next week, Wednesday. And I will bring this up as well, because all of these bike lanes, is great. I'm for it, but how they implement it, how they put it in, how they implement it, doesn't make sense. The common sense is out the door. And so it's causing more hamper, more problems. So fixing a problem is endemic and creating more problems. So on Cook Street, a current solution could be, Madam Chair, we can bring up the mayor. HPD has a challenge trying to enforce that. And what we need to do is look at the peak periods of all those cars that park there and put no parking during the peak period. And if they park, they get told. It's going to be hard at first, maybe give a warning, but they need to move those cars if we're going to use Cook Street. Now, when Cook Street was done, traffic was not as much. But as we approve more condos going up in the area, it just increased the population and it jams the infrastructure. So that's one. And then on the other thing, the bus street, I look at that as well. We also need to, Madam Chair, bring this up to the city, because it's a city and a state aspect as far as enforcement. HPD can only enforce the law. They don't make the law. But we need to help them to call up the non-common sense things on the book so that it can help HPD do their job to make it safe. I rest.
Thank you. Member Davis and then Lieutenant Sakusha, I think had some.
I just wanted to bring up a quick point, and I think in hearing or listening to all the conversation, the biggest thing that I'm noticing is there's a lack of consistency around how our streets function and what the rules are. And anytime you introduce inconsistency, people are not going to know how to navigate it. So like by having different, I mean, even our two streets, those are two streets apart. There's a different, there might not be enough space, but like we have one bike lane on the right and another bike lane in the center on the next intersection up. Like it just, again, not all adults have the same access to knowledge. Just thinking about this, but the more consistency we create, the better chance we have at people following it. And I think that's just, I'm just seeing a lot of inconsistency, even like the no turn on red, one intersection, no turn on red, the next intersection, turn on red, the next intersection, no turn on red. I'm like, what is going on here?
Actually, the law, because there's some of the signs that says right turn on red, okay, right?
There are some that
But
have no
the
sign.
law says you cannot turn on red. So that creates
It doesn't say that. It says that.
What?
And here's a great
the
example.
law can pass, there's no, yes. That's why it's a challenge, because what happens, if you're following the law, you cannot make a right turn on red. So you have to, and then when the light turns green, you cannot turn if there's a pedestrian that's in a crosswalk.
Right.
So now you have to wait for the pedestrian.
Right.
And you have someone like myself that's coming the opposite direction.
Yes, this is what's
walk on
happening.
purpose, but I can't walk as fast as I used to. So now where you used to be able to have 4 or 5, maybe 6 cars turning right, you only have 1.
Right.
And then now drivers are getting more angry, aggressive
Yeah.
when it's their turn. And so, the unspoken rule, when it's yellow, speed up, that's what's happening.
Right.
And we need to address
That's
it.
true. Sorry, can I just clarify, and maybe Lieutenant Sukucio, you can tell me, is that actually a law? Hawaii is a no turn on red state. Like, if there's not a sign, if there's no posted sign, are you allowed to turn on red or not? Turn right on red?
If there's no posted sign, then you can make the red when it's safe after stop. If the
Right,
traffic
okay.
signal is red, you
Okay.
have to stop. If it's free and clear of any
I'm
type
sure
of
I'm
pedestrians.
breaking the law every day for the last 6 years, but thank you.
Yeah, but
Like,
just like
perfect.
I was trying to say in the beginning, I think even when we were discussing about Pensacola, um, the people that are making these decisions need to include law enforcement, because we're out there every day. We're the ones that actually have to deal with the traffic and deal with pedestrians. We could definitely give some great input. Those no right turn on reds, they just came up overnight. All of a sudden they're not there, and all of a sudden it's like a magician came by and they put it up. In
Right.
regards to that, it actually causes us some delay in calls for service. I had an example coming down on Ward, approaching Ala Moana Boulevard. We're trying to get to a call at the nursing school. Obviously, there's 4 or 5 cars in front of me. It's in the middle of the night. There's no cross traffic. They could actually make the right turn on red when it's safe, but they can't because it's a no right turn on red over there. So now we have to wait, right? Now that causes us, depends on the type of priority call it is. If it's like a priority 1, like they need our help right away. Now we're gonna have to go around these vehicles, go left of center to just get around these guys because they don't want to, you know what I mean? They're not gonna go through the light. I mean, to allow us through because they don't want to get a, you know what I mean? They're kind of in that conundrum, right? We're telling them to go, and the sign's telling them not to go. I just think that there should be a little bit more law enforcement engagement in regards to these decisions, including Cook Street. I don't know if these people realize, but Cook Street is actually a major thoroughfare. I don't know if they did any studies. Yeah, I don't know if they did any studies in regards to that location, how many vehicles, but that is the only street that you can traverse from Ala Moana Boulevard that will take you all the way up to Kapilani Boulevard to alleviate some of that, that pressure traffic going on Ala Moana Boulevard. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but the rail is definitely coming. As soon as construction starts popping off in the area, it's going to be a huge issue. Yeah.
that comes.
Well, in addition, there's a main thoroughfare on Cook Street to Straw, emergency room. And that's an issue.
We'll go straight up right toward HPD. HPD, like right up, if you go up Cook towards,
HPD doesn't- Yeah.
right, goes up to, right, but it goes all the way up to King.
Yeah.
But I think it's like because that one section that connects to Moana is not the most traversed, like people will use the two that are closer to Salt. It's like we forgot that that is the only road that goes through.
One more, and
Yeah,
then.
sorry, I just
Sorry.
had a follow-up, and I was on a roll. Going back to Lieutenant Sugucio. You reported that there was one previous month graffiti. And this month it's two, or vice versa, it's 2 and 1. But as I walk around the area, there's more graffiti that's popping up. And the graffiti are gang related. So, we probably talk offline, but something needs to be done. There's an unspoken rule. If it's a nice mural, doing graffiti, you don't touch it. But there's no rule. And they're just doing lots of gang tags and all that. And to go back what Member Webb was saying, all of the illegal activity that's going on. So graffiti is starting to become a really big problem. And if we're trying to promote tourism and we're trying to promote harmony and all that, it's getting worse. So if you can, and we can't enter that right now, but pass it on to the department that handles that. So you can take a look at it because.
Absolutely. So in regards to the graffiti cases, not a lot of people report these graffiti cases, especially if they're on private property. They just well as just go ahead and just try to paint it over and clean it up. We used to have a graffiti hotline where we used to track a lot of these offenders and stuff. But I guess in regards to when COVID hit, it kind of went away. Just slightly, but let me go check with my command. I think maybe we should start that detail once again. We can track these guys, compare all of these gang style tags, but just realize, especially in the Kaka'ako area, I mean, certain buildings allow these murals to be painted up. We've been noticing, some of these murals, these other people that don't get the opportunity to do these murals, utilizing different walls in particular areas, but it's very difficult because they're very tactical. They have spotters, lookouts. They use two-way radios. They even use gloves to mask the paint on their hands. So when we do stop them, we don't have any evidentiary information off of them, in other words, to place them as the criminals of that graffiti case. But yeah, let me go bring that to my command. Let's see what happens and see if we can bring back that detail.
But then it is kind of a catch-22. I understand he handles the public domain, and that private property, they have to handle their own. But yet it's a combination of the two. There's a gray or fine line that nobody's doing anything. Everyone thinks somebody's doing something, but nobody's doing anything. And it's getting worse. And so, Madam Chair, this is something that we maybe take up at the action committee, but we need to turn around and do something because the beauty of Ala Moana Kaka'ako is being hindered from this.
Thank you, Member Moreno. Member Rice, and then we're gonna have to move on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Lieutenant Sugucio. I'm going to refer back to last month's meeting and your report on no dogs in Moana Regional Beach Park, please. Can you tell me, I have a lot to say, so I'm sorry, but this is really important to the people in our district. Can you tell me, I did a photo study on May 18th of all the signage in Moana Regional Beach Park. Not one blue sign says no dogs allowed. Not one blue sign says dogs must be on a leash. But the signs do say no alcoholic beverages. I have pictures of people drinking alcoholic beverages there. No graffiti, there's plenty of graffiti. No animals, there's feral cats, there's feral chickens and dogs off leash, which is wrong. No camping. You've got so many homeless who have been living in the park for a long time. I live right across the street. I see them every single day. They sleep in the park. In the middle of the night, they move, but they're there every single day. You're not supposed to play golf in the park. I have a photo of a gentleman playing golf in the park. You're not supposed to have open fires, but here's a guy right next to one of the fire pits, but he has his own little fire going, not in the fire pit. And I can go on and on and on. I have no shopping carts, but there's a zillion shopping carts in the park being used by people and not being, or just left there as litter. Oh, and you're not supposed to litter either. Last night, during the beginning about 6:15 of the Lantern Festival, I'm on the mountain side of Moana Boulevard, and I see a couple, each with two dogs on the path inside the park, closer to the tennis courts, and 4 of HPD's officers on their ATVs zooming by. They did not stop them. They did not have words with them. They just kept on by. And what I'm hearing in the neighborhood, because I walk the neighborhood every single morning for a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hours, is I've gotten cited. And then the officers say, but you don't have to, you can't go to court, but I won't be there to contest it. So what's the point of giving the citation, number one? But where did this rule come from? Who said we have to cite people who are walking their dogs responsibly, pick up after dogs, but yet there's everything else going on in the park, but people who are responsible with their dogs are not allowed to go into the park. I'm not talking about the beach, the sand. I'm talking about the park, the grass. Thank you.
I'll start off with the dogs. In regards to that, the complaint for these dogs came in through the 311 or the normal complaint lines, through the OIC complaint lines to the mayor's office, through city council, riser complaints, buck slips. We get a slew of complaints that come in to the police department, and one of them was the dogs in the park, right? So when it says no animals, I think that's what they're trying to say, no dogs, yeah. I understand about the feral cats, but I think that's a totally different issue. We might have to, look into, the Humane Society in regards to feral cats. There's feral cats everywhere. I don't personally like when people feed those feral cats. I mean, they just end up, grow, that cat population just generally grows. Now, in regards to yesterday's situation where you saw ATV officers, and then they saw an individual with their animals or their pets in the park. I think yesterday the most paramount thing on our officers' minds was public safety. I don't think it was in regards to addressing these dogs. These people are bringing in the dogs illegally and stuff like that. We do cite for dogs in the park. We do pick certain officers to assign due to the fact of calls for service. Now realize this, so our CPT had actually went to all of the major apartment buildings around the area, and then had passed out flyers, made notifications, with those UCR codes, so that people could educate themselves in regards to the parks. But these complaints came from your constituents. So there were the ones that sent the complaints in, and there's numerous complaints in regards, because obviously there's a lot of people that don't pick up after their dogs, leave the dog poop. We even had dog bite cases. The only reason the last dog bite case wasn't prosecuted was the dog was belonged to a family friend that was there with the party. So in order to alleviate these kinds of issues, we just want to say no dogs in the park. Yesterday's situation, very unique. We were more concerned about public safety and making sure the crowds were controlled. Alcohol is a big problem. We do go into the park and we do cite people for alcohol or prohibitions, but just realize this, right? I mean, people get really smart, right? They put it in their flasks, and actually when they put it in their flask, in order for us to test that liquid in the flask, that is gonna have to, we're gonna need a search warrant. Yeah, that's considered a closed container. So we're playing by all constitutional laws and all HRS laws. We cannot just go up to them suspecting that it is alcohol in a hydro flask and then tell them to give us the liquid. That will be a violation of the constitutional rights. It would be the Fourth Amendment, right? Right to search and seizure. So there's a lot of rules that we have to play by, that a lot of people that go to the park don't. So with that, obviously there's a lot of issues. The homelessness. We realize that the park is open from 4 to 10 at night. They're part of the general public. If they hang out in the park, there's nothing really we can do. But the ATV units at 10 at night usually clear the homeless. We've been trying to get rid of those shopping carts. I'm trying to see if we can propose on several community boards, if we could actually charge these business establishments for the return of their carts, because they're very careless. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to put shopping cart arresters on them, so that people who try to take these carts can't go very far with them. That would be a great help if they could pass a law on that, about all new carts having to have shopping cart arresters. That would really help us in the residentially challenged community, in them utilizing carts to haul their belongings. And in regards to that, I mean, penalize them. When we arrest them for the theft of the wagon, we just need these businesses to prosecute as well, right? But just realize these businesses every year they budget loss of the loss of wagons. So it's really difficult. We're fighting an uphill battle in regards to that.
Thank you. Saying there are more tickets issued with the dogs early in the morning versus the afternoon. And that, in that some people are saying it's very selective who they cite and who they don't. So I really appreciate your insight and your response, and you'll be hearing more. I'm going to send you a very interesting email.
All the city
All
has to
these-
do, I just wanted to recap it real quick. One last thing just before we go. I know we've taken a lot of time, but all the city needs to do is designate a location at Ala Moana Beach Park where dogs are allowed. The
Thank
sign,
you.
the signage is too broad. It closes off the park totally, and there's no other parks that can allow people to take their dogs to the park. If they can, right at the base, right at the bottom of Pecoy, that big open field right there, just fence it in, turn it into a dog park. That would be my suggestion. And that'll be that.
Especially with all the new high rises going up in the Ward Kakako area, and they're all dog friendly, and there's no place to go. If you can't go down home, where are all these dogs supposed to go?
Yes.
This was presented to the neighborhood board many years ago, of having a separate area section at Ala Moana Beach Park for dog. And so we may need to
Revisit that.
do that. And, we need to do a resolution, and then we probably do that, or bring up the O and resubmit it, and just say, we need to take a look at that. Because that makes that's common sense.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Sabucci. Yeah.
You guys are very
I'm very
welcome. I
glad.
apologize for taking all of you guys' time. You guys have a great night.
That's why we're here.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Lieutenant Bishop. Moving on to board business, do we have any nominations to fill the current vacancy in substitute one? Okay, move on. Approval of the April 23, 2024 meeting minutes. Anyone have any edits? Member Mariano, you said you had some.
Yes, and I'll present this to Spencer at the end. I just kind of wrote it up, it's item number 6, residents' community concerns, where I raised the thing about the right turn. I also recommended, it's not in minutes, that the city relook at this law, because it's causing an unnecessary traffic backup, and it just proves our point tonight. So if we could, for the record, put that in there.
You can send me whatever words you want in there.
Yep. I will.
Anyone else for meeting minutes? Comments, okay? Report from our May 9, 2024 Action Committee meeting with.
So we move to amend the minutes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we can do a motion.
yeah, motion to amend meeting minutes.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you.
That is corrected by Mariano.
Thank you. Okay, report from the May 9, 2024 Action Committee meeting with Committee Chair, Member Davis.
Yeah, I will try and keep it quick, but I know we have some guests too that, might be wanting to comment or share some insight, but we mostly focused our efforts on getting closer to finalizing our resolution in support of an integrated neighborhood safe zone into our community. And I'm glad we mentioned just recently, like, there's no place for dogs to go. It's like we've created a similar situation in our neighborhoods and that like homelessness or houselessness is not illegal, but we're in contention with the sit-lie law and we're not really moving forward in a lot of ways towards a solution. And our neighborhood is kind of thinking that this is what we want to propose as a solution to create a safe zone where it is okay to be in this situation and where resources can be provided more effectively to those members of our community. We received some really good input from Aura and White Appleseed and really appreciate, again, not just the participation in the meetings, but connecting us with a larger number of people that, can help create a better plan for what works in our neighborhood. We had some really good conversations, again, about the duality of, again, the legality of homelessness and the sit-lie law, the complexity of addressing this issue and the fact that, no one's really come super close to it yet. That's why it's a continuing challenge. And the need for some of the oversight to come from the neighborhood board directly. I know that we've talked a lot about we can write this resolution and then it goes up to the next level. And if they approve it, we might get funding for it. But we talked a lot about not everything is scalable. When we scale everything up and it's only monitored, by a level that's far away from the actual neighborhood and what's happening, I think we lose a bit of the effectiveness. And so some of that oversight, we're building into the resolution and encourage people to read it. But it builds in that it would be, there would be a report to the neighborhood board on a monthly basis so that we can help to address some of the issues that might arise or start to, just so we can be a successful system. The board is going to continue to finalize edits at the next action committee on Thursday, June 13th. So I highly recommend that anybody that has input, June 13th, right? Thursday, 11th is a Tuesday, but you got it. Yep, Thursday, June 13th. And we really are interested in hearing questions and concerns from the public, input from the public, everyone in the public, HPD, and representatives, from both city council, state house, anybody that, again, has a bigger picture of the understanding of, again, the complexity of this issue. I don't know if we have time to take any comments or hear anything now, but I know that we have guests that.
Yeah, they're on the agenda.
Oh, right. Or speaking. Right.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
So again, as Member Davis mentioned, our next action committee meeting is next month. Initially, when we had planned this, we had it up to May. But the McKinney Christian Church has been gracious enough to have us use the room for the rest of the year if we want to go that route. So I guess we'll just keep going.
Great, that's very nice.
Did we confirm a shift in the action committee to, is it still called action committee? And
Yeah.
it's just not a
We'll leave
special
it.
meeting anyway, right? Okay.
Any further discussion on action committee meeting items? So I guess the goal is to vote on this resolution that we have been talking
At the
about.
next regular board meeting. The goal is, yeah, so finalize, that's the hard part. We can't have quorum at now the non-special meeting. So it is going to be edited, finalized at the next action committee. I think more board members are allowed to attend as residents, but we can't have a quorum in order for it to not be a special meeting unless we wanted to make one. I don't know. But that being said, the goal is to finalize the resolution. So either, if you can't make it, share with me or with Dyson. who's gonna chair that or be the chair at that meeting because I am not able to make it. But then we are hoping to vote on this resolution at the June regular board meeting.
Thank you, Member Davis. Member Farrell, any other question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because just exactly what you were just discussing with regard to quorum and some of the questions about what we're allowed to do under the Sunshine Law that was brought up at our last meeting. I have had some conflicts with this meeting with regard to work. And then after that, I was realizing maybe it's actually better that I'm not there. So I'm just trying to understand with regard to the number of people, because I know that there was some questions about that. But anyway, I just wanted to get a little clarification as well, because I would like to participate, but I've sort of haven't in the last one because I thought that we needed to not have so many members there, more public.
Right, so, so the action committee meeting is for a discussion. The quorum for our board is 6. So we can't have more than 6 members attend. You can, it's a public meeting, so people can attend it, but they can't be active board members.
Attending as a board member in their position as a board member. More than 6 can attend, or more than 5 can attend as residents.
So how many are on the committee now again?
11.
Yeah,
Oh, on the committee? The committee has or was open
Yeah, any given
to
time, it's like
everybody.
yeah, right.
So there was no restriction on before, and that's, we have to make sure that we designate who's the acting board members, and anyone else has to officially be registered as a resident attending the meeting, otherwise we break quorum.
Got you.
That's my understanding.
Okay, I'm a little bit more clear. Thank you. So it's probably best that I just step off this subcommittee, and just,
There's maybe a better way of putting it is, no one's really fully on the committee. It's more of a, whatever topic we're talking about, no more than 5 people acting in their board position can attend that meeting, but more people can attend as residents of the
Gotcha.
community.
got you. I'm clear. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification, everybody.
I think to be clear, my understanding when we set this up, the committee, right? The chair appoints the committee chair and maybe 1 or 2 officers for that committee. That's the committee.
Yep.
Other members participate as owners or residents. And they can come and talk because we invite it to the public. Now, no gathering on the side to kind of have a pre-vote, that's illegal.
Right.
That cannot be done. So what happens is at the committee, I, as a board member, make sure that I declare that I'm representing myself as a resident.
Mhm.
Okay, so then the committee officers would make a recommendation based on the discussion,
Mhm.
and then they present that recommendation to the board at the next meeting.
Got it.
So to say that if I'm coming, yes, I am a board member, but if I declare that I'm participating as a resident, as a concerned citizen, I think that's fair, because if not, the state legislature, the representatives, the city council, they can't have committees, and they have active participation. So we need to get further clarification, and if it's legal counsel at the neighborhood commission that's saying that if board members attend, then that's another board meeting violating the sunshine law, I think it needs to be relooked. Because as a chair, Madam Chair, you appoint a committee member, and then they select their own vice president, and that's it. That's the committee.
And thank you for that clarification, Member Mariano. So we do have the officers for that meeting. So Davis, Member Chi, and Member Price.
Right, and so those are the only 3
Got it.
that can vote to say whatever discussion, they're gonna bring that issue up to the board for discussion. And then I can call Member Davis, the chair of the committee, later on, and says, hey, Emma, I support you with this, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. So there's no outside influence that can be done. And as honest brokers, as long as we conduct ourselves that way, the action committee make that recommendation. So when it's brought to the board, the board, the committee chair makes a recommendation, what the committee says. And then it's put to a motion, second, discussion, and then you can vote out, and then all the discussion, and the board makes the decision.
Thank you.
Understand.
So my new understanding is that myself, Dyson, and Jeannie are the committee.
That's correct. My,
Other people can attend based on if they are interested in the topic.
Yes.
And at the end of that meeting that we facilitate and anybody can participate in as a resident, we can just report on what that discussion was at the regular board meeting.
exactly, and
Cool.
so that's the way I believe it's interpreted in the Sunshine Law, Robert Rules of Order, because that's what we're governed by.
Yep.
And again, if we are not, then we should invite the neighborhood commission to come out. But it's very clear that if I'm going to the action committee, I make it known that I am representing Lynn Mariano,
Got it.
not a board
Yep.
member.
So during roll call, we would only call roll for myself, Dyson Sheedy.
Yep.
And Jeannie Rice.
Yeah, that's the way it was set up as a standing committee.
Member Karen. Member Berenger had a
I would
question.
just ask that Member Yamamoto would chime in here because it wasn't so much about Robert's Rule of Order, but more about the Sunshine Law.
Oh, yes, that's that.
Stepped out, but what was your question? Maybe, or maybe it's
Spencer.
Answer?
I think her concern is the sunshine law. So we can have it to, Madam Chair, to Mr. Spencer to bring that up with legal, what we just discussed. This is being taped. And if there's a different ruling on that fact, then let us know.
I can follow up with you, Spencer, too, and just talk to whoever, so that I have a good clarity on it.
Yeah, everything I heard you guys talk about was good. Yep. Can't have a big group outside of the meeting because you guys would decide outside of the meeting. So, yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, discussion of holding candidate forums. This is just thrown out there because it's an election year. Would this board be interested in having a candidate forum?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, okay, so we can either do it just with our board or work with other boards. I guess we could flesh it out further, but,
Be efficient if other
Yeah.
boards could, be, but maybe the 5 boards that we were looking at as part of the action committee.
Well, it depends on what, it's like, how do the neighborhoods overlap with city council, state house, like the actual people that would, like, if residents come, that they would be hearing from the candidates that are hoping to represent them.
okay.
So it's more looking at where those overlaps are.
District.
But I,
Dovetail together.
and there's, I don't know if there's any perfect, they will eventually overlap where I don't think it's perfect anyway.
Madam Chair, I would suggest that we contact the Waikiki Neighborhood Board,
Yep, I agree.
because they've done that before. They even had where they had candidates up on stage, and there was a moderator, and they had questions from the floor. They asked questions, each candidate had an opportunity so that if we're gonna do this, let's do that. Versus a campaign speech. Because I think residents want to know, like myself, why should I vote for you?
You want a neighborhood board?
I think we should go to the Waikiki Neighborhood Board, because they've done this before. I think Makiki has.
Great. I've done the Makiki, I was actually a moderator back in 2014 for one of these boards. And I think we have to make the distinction that it's not a debate forum as much as it is informational. So, and it makes it go faster that way. So I'll reach out to the.
And you need a larger venue too.
Yes.
Yeah, Chair, the last time we did it here, I thought was done very well.
Yeah, it was just within our district though. We didn't have the other neighborhood boards. And then we had a set of questions, like each one had the opportunity. So it was, even keeled and fair across the board. So it was quite, yes, I felt it was quite successful. Yes, and it wasn't so large that I got, can get out of hand.
And we could get it done.
In one night, yeah, in one, yes, yeah, exactly.
So we're saying So we're reading that
Our neighborhood.
yeah, what I'm saying is all candidates that represent Alamoana property.
Any, yeah,
Of the state, city,
Yeah, whomever's
So
right.
it's basically the roster that we have that present here every month,
Right,
Yep.
plus whoever else is running against them.
right.
yep.
So that would be it.
so Madam Chair, I move that, look at doing a candidate forum in the future, date to be determined.
Okay, so primaries are in August.
You've got to do
If
it.
everyone's in.
July.
I would say July.
Yeah, well,
That
that
would
should
give
be
us a
July,
July.
since the primaries are in August.
Maybe at the July board meeting.
Would
Just
Would
do
the
it at the
board
July board meeting.
be open to having the July board meeting be the fun?
Yes.
Yeah, if you, the board wants to use, the regular meeting date would be best, because that way you get the WebEx.
Correct.
And the officials already usually have it on their schedules to begin with. They don't have to
And
ask for
the
another
July
day.
will be the initial convening meeting too, just something to keep in mind, you'll have a lot of business to do, so I would just say maybe we don't schedule any presentations that night too, because it could hurt very long.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so I'll restate the motion.
okay.
I move that the Alamoana Neighborhood Board conduct a candidate forum on July the 30th.
Is that our regular date? No.
Is it the fourth?
Is the fourth, I'm sorry, not
Fourth
the 30th,
Tuesday.
it's gonna be the
23rd.
23rd, because there's 5 Tuesdays in June.
It's the fourth Tuesday, yes.
On July the 23rd. Additionally, that the candidate forum be just strictly candidate forum. We don't conduct any other business.
Except for initial convening.
Yes,
Except for initial convening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
I second, with some business.
Okay. Motion by member Mariano, seconded by Secretary Rice. Anyone opposed?
Discussion.
Okay. Comments?
Who's going to monitor?
I'm fine, right?
She's in the top list now.
Yeah. You guys are excellent.
Thank you.
2 years.
Comments, questions? Thank you, member Mariano. Okay, so it looks like the board has approved a July 23rd candidate forum for this election year. Okay? Moving on. Attendance at other meetings. Does anyone want to report on any attendance at other meetings? Okay. Presentations. Okay, thank you to BFS for your patience. We have you here today to present on real property tax division. If you can say your name for the record.
Yes. Stand here.
Yes.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
You'll be closer to the mic.
Yeah, I'm actually doing some just initial comments. Oh, okay. We're ready for it. We have our team here.
So if it's okay, the mic is there, the camera is to your right.
So you can.
Oh,
No, but if you look at this side, they can't hear.
okay. Well, thank you for having Budget and Fiscal Services presenting today. We are going to do a refresher on the real property tax program for the city and county of Honolulu. And I didn't mention, I'm Andy Kawano. I'm the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, or BFS. We also have with us from our Real Property Tax Assessment Division, our Division Chief, Stephen Takara, and the Assistant Chief, Stuart Peterson. Stuart will be doing the presentation.
Spell your last name.
Kawano, Kawano. Yeah, so real property tax program is the key revenue source for the city. And, we do our best to, maintain a fair program for taxpayers, knowing that the taxes have to be assessed, billed and collected so that we can pay for our services. And, as you all know, over time, the citizens and businesses on this island want more services in a lot of areas. And so it's important that we maintain a strong, solid program. So, with that, we'll call Stuart up to do the presentation, and then I think we'll have more of the time for questions and answers. So Stuart?
Good evening, Stuart Peterson. I'm with the Real Property Assessment Division, Assistant Administrator. Would you like to just flip them for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak to you all tonight.
I just scroll down.
Yeah, well, you can hit next if there's a, should be a thing up at the top, that down arrow should get you to the next slide. Yeah, okay. So these are just a few of the things that were mandated by the revised ordinances of Honolulu to do. One of them being to tax all real property at 100% of its fair market value, and also to assess real property in its entirety. Oh, okay, sure. Okay. Yeah. So this is just a timeline of some of our important dates. Our sales cutoff date, meaning the date that we're going to stop using the sales for our next assessment, is coming up June 30th of this year. Our assessment date of valuation is October 1st of every year. So the next one coming up is October 1st of 2024. December 15th is when we send out the notices of assessment. And it's also the day that the appeal period begins. And that ends 30 days after it begins. Okay. Move on to the next slide. So this is just some of the distribution of the real property tax responsibilities. So our division here is in the green. We come up with the parcel value, or I should maybe say the taxable parcel value. We determine the valuations of all the parcels, and we administer the exemption programs and the dedication programs. And as I mentioned earlier, our notice of assessment goes out December 15th. Here in the red is the tax rate proposed by the mayor and adopted by the city council, and this is done every year, and it will be done by the end of June. So that's also coming up. And finally, in purple here on the right side is the real property tax, and this is handled by the Treasury Division. So they compute the taxes, then they bill and collect tax payments, and they also administer the tax credit programs. Okay, so their billings are, they send the first billing out in July, due in August, and the second billing is sent out January, due in February. Okay, next one is the notice of assessment, which I mentioned earlier, of course. This notice tells taxpayers of their assessed property value and the exemption amounts they have and the property's classification. And this is not a tax bill. Next, please. When you get your notice, it's a good time to check your property records, and you can do this online at our website, www.realpropertyhonolulu.com. And by the way, this whole presentation is on our website, so if you miss anything here, you can go to our website here. We have a link on the last page for you to, if you want to use a QR code as well. Okay, so when you're at our website, you can navigate to the real property record search, which is that icon here on the right. You can enter by TMK or your address. And you can access all types of data, including your the owner assessment information, land and building, sales, etc. If there are any discrepancies, we ask taxpayers to contact us and let us know of those discrepancies. Okay, the valuation side. So basically, the director is tasked with causing the fair market value of all taxable real property to be determined and annually assessed by the market data and cost approaches to value. On our website, we have a video explaining in a short 7-minute video how the assessment, the valuation process works. That's specifically for residential properties. Okay, the next page is tax credits, exemptions, and dedications. These are all forms of tax relief. Exemptions and dedications are handled by our division. So if you visit our website, there's a full list of exemption and dedication programs. So the difference, exemptions are something that a taxpayer may qualify for, like a home exemption. Increased this year after Mayor Blangiardi approves Bill 40. The deadline to file exemption is September 30th. Dedications are promised by the owner to use the property in a certain way for a set amount of years in order to receive tax relief. And the Treasury Division handles tax credits that typically reduce the taxes due on the bill for the following year. Examples are the automatic sprinkler tax credit. Okay, I'll get a little bit more to the home exemption, which is the most common one. It's a form of tax relief that reduces the taxable value of your property. You're entitled to a home exemption if you own and occupy the property as your principal home. Your ownership is reported at the Bureau of Conveyances, and you qualify for the exemption by properly filing a claim for the exemption on or before the deadline, September 30th. And you can also file claims on our website. Okay. The basic home exemption is $120,000 for homeowners under the age of 65, and also for homeowners who don't have their birth date on file. If you do have your birth date on file and you're over 65, it jumps up to $160,000. Okay. Property owners do not need to refile the home exemption every year. If you have your birth date on file, you don't need to reapply for the higher amount. It automatically will kick in when you become of the right age. And once the home exemption is approved and granted, it stays there until something changes with the ownership of your property. Okay. At that point, you have to let us know, something has changed. Okay, the next page is the dedication for residential use. So this allows you to get the residential rate for your property that may not be in residential zoned areas. The parcel must be improved with one or more detached dwellings. And if it's approved, the owner forfeits any right to change the use of the property for a minimum period of 5 years, and that's automatically renewable thereafter for additional periods of 5 years. When the property is sold or transferred, the dedication will continue its current 5-year period, but after that period, it'll expire, and the new owner would have to file if they wish to receive the same benefit. Okay, when you get your notice of assessment, if you disagree with the valuation, the exemption amount, the classification, you can file an appeal to the Board of Review, and the annual period is December 15th through January 15th. We encourage all people that are considering appealing to contact our office first. There's a lot of questions that can be answered to the taxpayer just by simply giving us a call, and we can avoid a lot of the trouble of going through the appeal process. Appeal filings do require a $50 deposit, and you can file online, in person, or by mail. And again, our website has a lot of information about the Board of Review appeals. The next page is just some of the grounds, the 4 grounds of appeals that we have. The most common one is, number 1, is that the assessment is more than 10% higher than the market value. Another common one is number 3 here, denial of an exemption to which the taxpayer was entitled to. Okay. Okay, and the final page on Board of Review appeals is we encourage taxpayers to submit evidence with their appeals. If you just appeal it with no evidence, there's no reason for us to change your assessment. So if you don't submit it at the time of appeal, we ask that you submit it before the board hearing, and a lot of times the case will be settled or withdrawn prior to the actual hearing when there's discussion with the appraisers. Okay? If it's not settled or withdrawn, then it'll go to the Board of Review. Okay. The Board of Review is made up of 3 to 5 citizens. Each side is given 10 minutes to give their case, and the board will make their decision based on the evidence before it. If you're interested in becoming a board member, please contact our office. We'd be happy to help you out there.
Are they appointed by?
Yeah, by the mayor's office. Yeah.
Appointed yet impartial?
Yes.
Okay.
These are some of the proposed tax rates for the upcoming tax year, July 1st of this year through June 30th of next year. So I stress these are the proposed tax rates. The new one that is coming up here is the transient vacation rate. You can see that at the bottom right there. Yeah, it has not been set yet, this resolution. Right?
That translate vacation, meaning people who have homes here but do not live in them.
Short-term rentals, yeah, less than 30 days.
Not the primary.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and then the last page is our contact information. So you can use the QR code there, our phone number, email, website, our addresses are all up there. So yeah, we encourage everybody to take a look. There's a lot of good information on there about your property assessment. And that's it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
I have a question about value assessment.
Mhm.
You know, if there's a woman living in a family home that she's been in for decades,
Mhm.
and that all around her, property speculators, investors keep buying and selling and making huge profits, does she get swept up? Does she pay the price of that policy that kind of allows for out-of-state investors?
It is a possibility.
Affect.
If the properties around her are making improvements to their properties and upgrading them, they'll be assessed relative to each other. So if their next door neighbor is highly upgraded compared to the example person that you're talking about, the neighbor would be assessed higher because of the upgrades done to it.
Okay.
But that kupuna probably will see some increase in their valuations as
And
well.
we've read the report on empty homes tax.
Mhm.
And what does it take for us to move forward with that kind of model? Where, from my understanding, there's some states that collect 4 times the amount of property tax that the employee charges.
Right.
So for them, it's cheap, and they own buy, sell, trade property here.
Right.
And then again, like gets caught up in that.
Uh-huh.
And then, so instead of shifting the burden on her, is there a way to shift it away from her? And is it legal to do an empty homes tax? Other jurisdictions have done it.
We currently have an RFP out, request for proposal. It's still in process, so we can't really say anything further other
So
than that.
you're doing a request for proposal for what exactly?
For empty homes tax study, a study, yeah.
Okay, so upon each study, is the one that you guys purchased or commissioned from Oregon or wherever it was, is it?
Well, maybe I better leave that to my director.
So with regard to the empty homes tax study, we're using FRF funds to fund the project. FRF, so American Rescue Plan funds. So we have those funds set aside. We're trying to get the funds obligated before the obligation date that's the deadline. So it's 12/31/24. We're negotiating with a contractor. We've been negotiating for a while. The contractor, I can't disclose who it is because I don't want to frustrate the process, but the contractor is a global consulting firm. And they've done work for Vancouver's program, based on what I understand. And they do work for other governments in the area.
And when do we look for that report to be actually?
We haven't even started it. We're still in contract negotiation. What we're negotiating right now are the general terms and conditions. So standard city general terms and conditions. This contractor wants modifications. So we're negotiating modifications.
Got it. And
to
in
those
regards
conditions,
to the personal
terms.
home exemption tax that, is there any way to like increase that by 4 times and then increase the property tax so people, if they don't feel it at all, the increase, but the only people who feel it would be these foreign investors who don't live in the units? Or is there a way to also offer an exemption to a landlord who does rent to a Hawaii state citizen? Well, like there's equivalent exemptions so their rents are going to go up because of this increased property tax.
You know, there are about 30 active real property tax bills that are at various readings. So we typically go through 3 readings before a bill, becomes law. And I think right after the budget is passed, sometime later in the summer, the council members will probably set up a permitted interaction group. So we can have, discussion on all of the bills, classify them, have discussion and decide, which ones make sense to improve our tax system, tax program.
Thank you, Member Yamamoto. Member Farringer and then Member Chan.
Just real quick, thank you for being here. This is Caroline. I just was wondering about any of those bills that you just mentioned, if they're provide any tax relief for Kapuna.
There are bills that provide tax relief for Kupuna, but we have to be cognizant that you have those that have it, they're privileged, and you have those that are struggling. So, what we want to do is, if we include a tax break for Kupuna, we do it the right way so it's fair. Because at the end of the day, we have a program that provides, again, the main revenue source for the city that pays for services. So whatever we do has to be fair and the best, provides the best results for as many citizens as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, question. Brought up that thing about putting your birthday down. If you don't have your birthday down, how do you put it on? Well, for the exception.
I believe the application will ask for birth date information. So you have,
So if you didn't put it on, it's a way to do it.
best way to do it is to call the real property tax assessment office and have a discussion with an appraiser so they can help you get the information in the system.
It's just for general knowledge in case, say, I don't know if I did or not. So, thank you.
Thank you, Member Chan. Member Mariano.
Yeah, just thanks for the presentation. It's enlightening. And I'm sure we can get copies of the presentation later.
It'll be on the Google Drive.
Okay. So, what Member Moore was talking about, and I just wanted to add on to that. Because you have unrealized property gain, right? When you're doing the assessments that's out there. Is it being done by the neighborhood? And I think it should be done by the neighborhood versus my street, my neighbor made a monster house and all of a sudden he's done all this improvements. And I haven't done that. So now because of that, I have an unrealized gain, which affects my tax, right? And so is there something like that? So for example, this Puna that remember what was talking about, an exception to the rule, particularly for cases like that, because it's not, maybe they put it all around, but now you have someone coming in and does all these great improvements, now increase the property values. So that's a concern. And then now here in our area, we have all these condos that go up. We talked about it at this board. We passed some resolutions for stay in, to ensure that they don't raise the rates. They don't get it maybe on real property, but then they'll tax on the maintenance fees. That's another way to do that. Have your office considered or looked at that? Because I know that there has to be maintenance fees for the infrastructure to be maintained for the out years. But what's happening with some of these newer developments that I've noticed, they have the opening, get in, property rates are up. Next thing you know is that within 18 to 24 months, they raise the maintenance fee. Now those that get into the affordable housing is now priced out. That creates a different dilemma for residents in the state. Particularly here on Milwaukee, things are kind of hard. So I'm really interested in the numbers, particularly the resolution or amendment that's being brought up for law. kind of look at that. So that's a concern that I would have as I talk to some of the owners, some of these condominium, that's a concern. So is there a way to help us, to help you so that we can ensure that it's fair and equitable? But the whole goal, what we're trying to do, like other neighborhood boards, is to have affordability for housing. Or if not, we get price and tax down. So
Right.
now, rather than work with 2 jobs to make ends meet, you have to find 2 more jobs. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. And I want to say that the real property tax valuation process is really independent of what gets charged for, maintenance fees. There's no tie-in. We base, as Stuart reported, it's based on, market data and cost data, right? That,
I think what he's saying is like, when you guys do that to make up for it, this is what they're, so like, even though they're interdependent,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're not. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the choices that you guys are making are not being controlled in enough.
yes, but over the years, policy has influenced our tax law, real property tax law. And so we mentioned tax credits. So after, the property is assessed and at the time the bills are determined and so on, you can actually apply for a tax credit if you're lower income. So there's a real property tax credit that's available to help people that are of lower income. And then I'd like to call Stuart or Stephen up to talk about when you have a property where you have many rental units that focus on supporting or providing affordable rent housing.
Like AMI.
We do have, AMI based, we do have an exemption for the owner of the property. So I'll have them give you the specifics.
Yeah, and if I could, when they're coming on. I think I understand what I
Okay.
heard you say.
Yeah.
Okay, when we're talking about single dwellings.
Yeah.
That's one set of rules. When you're talking about townhouses, which is like single dwelling, but they have property management, that manage that. Then we have the other category, which is condos. And then the next step is we have now we call mixed use. So there's a plethora of different type of rules and the concern is the single owner that passes on that information to not about the cost to the renter. That would be a concern that I bring up, particularly when I talk about AMI. Correct me if I'm wrong, like what we asked. Maintenance fees, is that taxed?
Maintenance fees, tax for real property taxes? I think you're talking apples and oranges.
That's my point. So
Yeah.
that's how they're getting around it. You got real property, and then they tax on maintenance fees. Some, because of infrastructure, may put the tax, but condos are exempt because it's a self-governing board. These are some of the challenges that we're going to be facing in the future.
No, those are all real challenges. And, the other one that a lot of neighborhood boards are talking about too is the cost of insurance.
Right.
That's another large cost.
Can I?
But yes. No, go ahead. Steve is our chief.
So I'm Stephen Takar, who's an ex-county. The real property administrator for the city and county of Honolulu. Just to kind of touch upon different concepts going on, and maybe I can not use my hand to explain. So anyway, I think this gentleman, Mr. Morgan, is kind of speaking about what Director Kawano was talking about, insurance. I think if I'm trying to clarify what I think you're talking about, and you can correct me along the way. Okay, so I think the idea was real property taxes and the values is X. However, on the onset of developer sales, it's this. But then as you grow into that property or that property ages, maintenance fees may increase. But that's, I think Director was saying that it's independent, but yet interdependent. Okay, so the idea of the insurance, so we've been monitoring the insurance and the impact of insurance. I think you guys have been watching the news, especially the high rises where the insurance for the AOAO is getting a concern. I think there's public outreach or opportunities because that may influence the sale price. That's what we're looking at. So that's what I think the independence of it, but yet it's related. So if insurance skyrockets and now it's that much costly to get into that unit and the sales price needs to be this to cover for that monthly expense, then the sale price of that unit may be adversely impacted. That may adversely, I guess, yeah. So, right, so the value is this and then, but then there's budgetary needs to come in play now, right? So that's what am I capturing the conversation?
Yeah, you're capturing it, and that's the point I'm trying to make it, because the unrealized impact on residents, particularly owners, is a concern, and we as a board, we want to try to see what can we do to help, because we don't want to have our residents that we building all these infrastructure built homes, apartments or condos, and all of a sudden now they're priced out, and now we've created a different dilemma. In some cases, they're selling their single home to get into a property, and then they're priced out. And I've seen several coupons like that, and they're fixed income. I will tell you myself, bought into a condo because I wanted as a fixed price. I don't have to worry about door and all that. But now as the price has gone up, it has a big impact. So
If I
I
can,
understand the challenges. I just wanted to bring it up to see how can we
yeah. So
help the residents so we can keep affordability where it is.
yeah, so if I can interject on that notion, right? So again, given the neighborhood of Moana, Kakako, there's a lot of high rise, a lot of condos that's in the situation, right? Of the impact, the potential impact of insurances and stuff like that. Okay, so that was what I think Mr. Peterson was talking about as far as tax relief, the home exemption, the other. So the other thing I kind of wanted to mention, I don't know if you, but if there's husband and wife or multiple owners on the property, we encourage all owners and all occupants to submit a home exemption. So you have backup just in case, let's say husband, wife, they're getting older, the husband is the claimant of the exemption. Unfortunately, he passes away, the wife becomes the backup. But if the wife did not file an application, that goes unclaimed. And then you fall into Res A possibly, or highly likely that, right? So, and I get to answer the gentleman's question about the birthday. You can call our office. The best thing is to do is call our office, see, where we're at. Hey, my birthday, I'm 67, I'm not getting it. You probably need to file a new application with your birthday just to get it going. Correct. So, and sorry if I guess I'm looking at the camera at this point. One of the other questions was monster homes affecting the neighborhood homes, right? Okay, we do it by neighborhoods, right? And the immediate area, but we also look at the comparable sales, comparable properties. So in other words, right? So we're gonna look at monster homes to monster homes or bigger houses to bigger houses, right? Probably construction, age, and all these other influences. So comparable homes to comparable homes. Is that determined by permit? We look at permit when it was built, the legal improvements versus the illegal improvements. And if it's illegal, unpermitted, we inform DPP that this may not be permitted. We'll
Thank
check
you
it
for
out.
addressing that, the legal versus illegal.
Yeah.
Member Sharon, you're online.
Thank you. Real quick, just getting back to the Kapuna thing. We're talking Alamana, Kakako, a lot of condos. Just give an example that, for example, 1350 is an older building that has had some residents there for many, many years. And they have then, gained the advantage of the equity from the values rising in the neighborhood, as well as the problem of increased property taxes. And there's some Kapuna that maybe perhaps have lived there for many years. Is there some sort of relief for those people based on the number of years they've lived that's in proposal, the number of years they've lived in a building versus their age or vice versa?
Yeah, so that's always a hot topic, right? So as far as like, so California has Proposition 13, where if you live there, your property taxes kind of is capped or, so there's issues with that. It's such a long kind of explanation, but basically if property A is capped, then other properties got to go like this and then make up for that. Okay, so that, as far as who is shouldering the tax base at that point. So that's one issue, right? Oftentimes the younger families need as much break as the kapunas, right? So equally, right? So that's up for debate. I think or I'm sorry if she was the same person, it kind of alludes to the idea that kapuna, fixed income, they cannot afford, they're gonna get taxed out of their home. And that's where the tax credit comes in, right? The low income tax credit is now at 80,000. So if you earn less than 80,000 and you're the total income of the owners on title is less than 80,000, there's a tax credit program to prevent being taxed out of you. So that increased from 60,000 to 80,000. So that's another tax relief option. Yeah, and it's capped at 3%. So 2,400 is the most real property taxes, given that if you hit the 80.
Hard to even be a property owner here if you're making $80,000 a year.
Yeah, but I think the situation was you buy it back in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
The value is here, your taxes is here, your income is this. So I guess what I'm saying is there is something, it may not be enough, but it's difficult to kind of balance everything out. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah.
Last
We'll
comment
do that last comment.
is that as you work through some of these challenges, that you face, please consider some of the things that we're kind of faced with. Because we can't make decisions. All we can do is hear and then pass it on to our legislators to make those decisions and put that in solution. And I think you're doing that, so I appreciate it.
If I may speak, he can kick me in the leg later on, I guess. So the idea, right? So everybody, they want to pay their share for it, but not a penny more, right? And everybody is seeking relief. The idea is that we're in it together, elderly, the disability, the military, all seem to justify reason for tax relief. But who at the end is gonna pay? Everybody understand it. I live here too, so bear with me. I have friends and family here too, so I still welcome to their parties and stuff. It's that dilemma. And thank you for understanding. There's council meetings that more than testimonies and conversations can happen, and we just want to inform and carry that transparency or have that transparency with, and that's why thank you for having us here.
Thank you. I learned a lot.
Yeah. Okay, moving on, we have DCAP, web pages. Mr. Ryan Nick is online.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks for having me. Sorry for being late. My name is Brian Mick. I'm with the State of Hawaii Department of Health Disability and Communication Access Board. I'm also a former neighborhood board member for Board 11. So I served with a couple of you for, I was on for just about one term. And prior to that, I had served 12 years working in the Neighborhood Commission office. So very familiar with the neighborhood board system. As I mentioned, I'm now with the Department of Health at DCAB. DCAB runs several programs, but probably the one that people know us most for are disability parking permits. So those are the red and blue placards that people hang from their mirrors and special license plates. We're on the issuance side. We contract out with the 4 counties to help us with the issuance. We do renewals of the long-term blue placards in-house. So even though we don't handle the enforcement, that falls primarily to HPD. A lot of people end up contacting us when they see someone who they think they think maybe they're abusing the placard, or they're clearly misusing it by, say, parking their car in the access aisle, or the placard's expired, things like that. Then we also get calls from people who have concerns with a particular parking lot, like a business, where they feel that there's not enough parking spaces if there is a minimum based on the formula that's part of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or something's missing, a sign's missing, the access aisle's missing, something like that. So we used to sort of get those random calls and random emails, and what we tried to do was make it an easier way for people to let us know. When we do get a complaint that's got, say, a photograph and some information we can try and verify, we can either try and follow up with the permittee and sort of remind them on the proper use of the placard, or if it's a situation where it seems as if the person that was using the placard was not the person it was issued to, we'll confirm that the permittee still has possession of their placard. If they've lost it, there's a process they can go to get a replacement. And if it's a parking lot, we'll of course follow up with the parking lot owner and send them information on what the design requirements are for the parking lot, and hopefully encourage them to go ahead and make the changes that they need to make. So those methods that we created are two websites, or two web pages on our web page. See if this will let me share it. So here's the first one. So I'll start with this one. So the misuse of disability parking permits. Again, this is for if you've seen something. As we note here, we are not enforcement agencies, so the police are. If you were hoping to have an immediate response, it would be the police department. It is considered a low priority for them, so a lot of times they either aren't able to come, or by the time they come, the vehicle's gone. HPD does have what they call a volunteer special enforcement officer, which are volunteers that have essentially been deputized to go out and do enforcement. So those people are out there. But what we can do is sort of after the fact on our end, if we're able to determine who that permit was issued to, we can follow up with them. So to do that, we need the placard or license plate number. We don't have, generally speaking, we don't have access to the motor vehicle database. So if all we get is a standard license plate number, we can't really do anything with that. But if it's a special license plate, which is equivalent to the placard, we can. And then, of course, we just sort of ask for a description of what the person saw. And here are some of the sorts of things they might have noticed. There are occasionally placards out there that are altered by people, usually the expiration dates. So again, if we're able to figure out who has that, we might be able to contact the person to track it down. A lot of these are parking misdemeanors, so be between a $200 and $500 fine and confiscation of the placard. Except for mutilation, that's actually one level up. So that's actually up to, I believe it's a $2,000 fine. So that's really a big one, because obviously we don't want people altering government property to try and get benefits. So that's that web page. And then the other web page is the one if somebody has a concern with an actual parking lot. That's the accessible parking space inquiries. Very similar, we just ask for as much information as we can. And for this one, we really need photograph, or a photograph is very helpful. If not, we can go on Google Earth to see if we can sort of verify what they're saying they see. But we have not only various types of conditions that they might observe. If they scroll down, we actually have, here's the formula for the minimum number of parking spaces a lot should have. Here's some examples of what the access aisle should look like, what the signage should look like. So anything someone may think about or think looks off to them, they can sort of come here as a reference. Again, this is in the formal complaint. The U.S. Department of Justice has jurisdiction over the ADA, so an official complaint would have to go to them. Their resources are very strained as well, though. You could also try and contact the department if it's a state or local government parking lot. And other than that, though, we will try and follow up with what we call technical assistance, which is basically educational material. So thanks for having me here tonight. We just are trying to get the word out about these websites so that people can use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Mick, DCAP / former NB11 board member. Member Chang.
Hey, right. I don't know. you remember me, I think I'm the only one left on this board that was serving for here. When you all my
It's-
name live.
Been some years, yeah.
So, the question I had was, for these placards, are they supposed to be for a certain car? So in other words, you can't take the placard and put it on another car, take that instead.
Yeah, good question. The placards are actually issued to a person, so they can be used in any vehicle that's being used to transport the person, which basically means they either need to be getting dropped off or picked up by that vehicle. The placards do have a unique serial number on them, which is in our database, which HPD does have access to, as well as other parking enforcement agencies. And we also issue a blue ID card with the placards that's wallet size, that's meant to be kept by the permittee. And so the law does state that they have to produce that ID card upon request by a parking enforcement officer. So those are the ways we try and control who has it. Obviously, it is a major issue with, say, someone in the household borrowing a placard. A lot of people will keep their placards in their glove compartment. So if somebody borrows their car and knows it's in there, they may be tempted, especially at a place like Costco or Moana Shopping Center when the parking lot is busy, to use it. I will mention too, this, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but it seems like a good time. Up until 2021, of course, the placards also provided a parking meter fee exemption of 2.5 hours. And what we determined in a lot of other cities and states is that those had become a real financial incentive for abuse. So people would borrow other people's placards, basically the parking meters. So that was repealed, the parking meter. There is a third placard now, a green placard, but in order to qualify for that one, you have to have a driver's license, which means you could be driving yourself, and you also have to have a disability, which prevents you from operating a parking meter. So either you can't reach the parking meter because you're in a wheelchair, for instance, or you can't operate it. Say you have extreme arthritis in your hand, and so you can't insert coins or credit cards easily. So very limited number of people have qualified for those type of placards. We have about 100,000 total placards issued statewide. Only 500 of those are the placards that also provide a meter fee exemption with them. So that was the other way we've really tried to crack down on this couple of years.
Thanks.
Thank you, Member Chang. Member Brian,
Yeah, just real quick, on the first website, if you can just add a way to add photos on that website, like we get the others, because that will help with, writing down the information. And sometimes when I see illegal parking in handicap, because I'm handicapped, and someone is there and they're doing Uber delivery, and it's, well, I'm just there for delivery. It's easier to upload a photo.
Yeah, and certainly, if we get complaints about business vehicles, especially, I have definitely followed up with businesses. Delivery ones being a prime example. Deliveries to 7-Eleven stores are probably some of the worst because they tend to have smaller parking lots, but they get big deliveries. So we will follow up. And company information, yeah, even if we don't know the specific vehicle, usually if we have a date and time, then the business can sort of figure out which driver of theirs that was.
Then it looks to me too like both of the links have a place to drop up or attach a photo.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'll go back and look.
Yep.
Thanks.
thank you, Member Brian, for presenting today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. The time is now 8:03. We are moving on to item 4.3. Like visit Admiral Leo. Laura. Hey. Laura.
Honey. Good evening, Chair, Board. I was prepared for a presentation, so, but we did take some pictures. If you guys, I'm more than happy to pass it along for you guys. I don't know if I can or what, but I just, so you guys can just kind of see what it was that we were looking at. I don't know if you can. Okay, so this past week, we had a site visit and we had invited some of the board members here from the action committee group. We felt like it was a really good opportunity with this resolution for a safe zone or kahale in Kaka'ako. To have board members and members of the community kind of share and be in this space and experience this space together. So I don't know, but member Kim Koko was able to come down and join us. I know a few others of you were off the island. Right? No problem. But it was really good. I think that some of the takeaways that we did learn from there, two things were super important. Well, the number one thing was community. That was expressed a lot in this space. It was community. It was all about building community, reintegrating into community, functioning as a community. So, you know, just changing that perception of, or not that perception, but just changing that mindset on like what we expect from these kind of individuals in these situations and what they can expect, right, to receive as far as services and support. And there was and number two was they allow the residents who stay there a really high level of like autonomy and independence. And mind you, a lot of these individuals were part of a houseless community that was staying down in Staten Island by the sandbox. But like, so these are individuals but those individuals, they said actually, because they were part of a community before, functioned really well once they moved into this site, in this type of space. But these were also the same people that people were calling and complaining about, and they were being swept, you know, like in the end, like quite vigorously. But you know, like, so changes like these are possible. Places like these, I mean, the place is beautiful, you know, and the residents there planted plants and like they're just doing all these other beautification projects to the site. And they said, you know, like there's really that sense of value and trust amongst each other. And there is a hired securities team there. I believe the understanding is the security will be the security on site, like full time. And then they want to transition it to where the residents who are there longer are able to step up into those kind of roles in the facility, and to kind of like be there like a mentor kind of thing, like for the next upcoming and, you know, those who are coming in after. So I don't,
Yeah, thank you.
any questions or, yeah.
I just wanted to, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I was so impressed by how the sense of community, but also the like I went into bathrooms and the shower areas, and I saw the laundromat, so nicely air conditioned. But yeah, everything was very tidy and well taken care of. You can see that there was a lot of pride within the community because they were participating in making decisions about when to one of the things that was interesting, that they also made decisions on, you know, forgiving somebody for a transgression or whatever and welcoming them back and that kind of thing, which was very empowering for them. And yeah, there was this focus on I guess mediation or just conflict resolution. It was great. Like I was really impressed with the facility and where it, you know, how it's going to continue growing and what could happen at Papako Gateway Park.
And we also have like some of the people who came with us to that site visit here. I don't know if you guys want to maybe share, but I'm putting you guys all on the spot. I really wanted to share. I really, I feel like you guys really need to hear something. Like we had barbecues, where they all would come together and eat and have meetings. So it was good to see. Oh, And they even get their food, they get breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sent, delivered there by the university. I believe it was, I don't know if you remember, was it HCC? I think it's HCC, who delivers the meals to the site. So I asked, is it free? Like, is it donated? Yeah, so
Is that a partnership with their culinary program at all?
probably something like that, yeah. I just think that's awesome, right? So it's like a give and take in the community as well, so.
They also have, medical that comes out. right?
Mhm. Mhm.
There's that.
And they have on-site case management, like they have a staff that's there. But impressively, they do have like a day room for like the residents there. But they're kind of left there on the honor system. And over the weekend, there's no staff, but the residents are able to enter and exit in this space. They have a TV, they have PlayStation. And everything is just kind of like left up to like, we're gonna trust you guys as the tenants here to like make sure and take care. But they've never come across any kind of problems. Yeah, so I think, like having that inclusion was like something, and that's theirs, right? So it was nice. It was just really nice to see that. I just wanted to share.
What kind of challenges do you feel like that site or just in like sites like it are still facing, or, pieces that aren't quite?
So one of the big challenge for the Kauhale site that they did mention was those who weren't a part of a community before coming into the Kauhale they did have challenges with them, trying to like get them to be a part of a community and function as a community. But they said it was really good that there was folks who were a part of a houses community before coming in. They were kind of like able to like help guide them, like on how to be a part and how to like function in the community environment, which is really.
You spoke of that mentorship, right?
Yeah.
People transition into this kind of.
So they actually have community leaders like amongst themselves, where she was as Kim Pofo was saying, like, where they are allowed to like make those decisions, have those discussions, like, oh, well, we feel that you're not stepping up to your part or whatever it is, right? But then they're able to like determine whether somebody can come back or whether they have to leave or whether there's a whatever, or if it's a forgiven thing and we're just don't do it again or whatever it is, but they're able to kind of like, I guess, essentially like police themselves, but it just gives them, it kind of empowers them more. And it was just really, we're going to plan another one and I'm going to invite you guys again.
But I would say another problem is that it's not big enough and it can't
Yeah.
expand fast enough because there are lots of, there's a wait list.
Well, I think maybe a solution to that, like if considering the safe zone, not the Kauhale itself with the structures and the buildings, but just having spaces like that and then having organizations or individuals or groups or whoever's, right, like come in and help these individuals build community in those spaces and then building sites for these whole community. And then, I think that we would see a big help, I think, just in the community, amongst the houses population, with our mental health increases, with health disparities. Like there's so many other things that are attached. Yeah.
I think what I hear you saying though is that the community that the safe zone that we're thinking about can be the community building that then translates to another Kauhale. They come with community already established. Yeah.
I was curious about that too, as like, as a transitional step towards a Kauhale, which is really what we've all kind of been talking about. The piece that's missing is like, it's kind of like trying to jump a cliff without a ladder rather than like actually take steps from point A to point B.
And I think another really good thing is they allow individuals to have setbacks. It's kind of expected. You expect individuals coming in.
You mean growth isn't linear?
You expect people are gonna fall. People are gonna, like not always meet the bar, whatever. But it's about working with them and working through those issues. And I love their staff there. It's amazing. It's an amazing place. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please invite us again.
I will.
Thank you guys for being here too.
Now 8:14, we move on to sub-district reports. Does anyone have anything? Residents and community concerns? Elected official report. Mr. Ben Sullivan.
Thank you.
Oh, no. Yeah, everyone like the meeting chair.
I may have to consider options for next month. Thank you. Ben Sullivan, Deputy Director for the Office of the City's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency. Happy to be here today. I will be brief because it's been a great meeting, but a long one. I'm sure you're all eager to hear from everyone and then at home. So a couple of highlights from Mayor's newsletter this year. The one I want to emphasize the most is, I don't know if everyone's aware, but there's been some tremendous progress for something that has been really, really difficult for a long time, which is the Department of Planning and Permitting. So Dom Takeuchi Apuna has really taken on the challenge of improving that organization, that department within the city, which has been a priority for Mayor, and progress is really starting to show. And so I think it's something that we should be celebrating. I think it's something you will see progress on when you go to see what's happening with permits. It's been a very long-standing, very difficult issue. New software system after 25 years of the same system, the ability for people to log in and actually see this, what should be a simple question, where's my permit, right? That's something you can now see. So great information noted in Mayor's newsletter. There's, some other great things. Of course, because I'm from the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency, I'll note that our annual sustainability report was issued on Earth Day. And so that's something that our office puts a lot of emphasis on. A couple of really small highlights, but relevant to us. The city consumed 6% less energy than they did from HECO last year and 12% less water. So we're continuing to make progress. And those are not just 1-year trends. There's actually, if you go look in the report, there's some significant trends downward in those things. And that's just because the city is making a concerted effort to conserve. And I can't promise that we'll be able to do that every year, because at some point it gets harder. The more you conserve, the harder it gets to do more. But I am really happy to report that progress. As far as other updates, maybe one of the kind of future activities, I think there's still some community meetings coming up. So the town hall meetings, I think there's 3 left. I don't know, has anyone been to a town hall meeting since Mayor started this round of town hall meetings? No? Yes. Great to hear it. I hope it was satisfying for you.
Yeah, it was well organized, and the mayor has this way of bringing it down and up.
Absolutely. And really, it is a forum for people to tell us what their issues are. And I think Mayor does a great job of saying, hey, we're not here to talk at you. We're here to hear from you. So there's 3 more of those, one in Haua on the 30th, one on June 6th in Waipahu, I believe, and then Wailua on June 20th. So I recommend making it out to one of those. You have the opportunity. A couple of follow-ups from last meeting. Actually, the first one was already covered. So you got the report from BFS, or the presentation from BFS, and I hope that met your needs. And then the second item I had on the list from last month was, I didn't hear Lieutenant Segusio talk about it, but there was a concern raised about illegal parking along Moana Street. Did that get covered?
No.
Okay, so HPD did go out there and issue citations. I think they did some checks. During the checks, officers issued 5 citations, and no other violations were observed. So of course they're going to continue to keep an eye on the area, and hopefully it'll ease up. The only other thing I have is I want to get clear. I know that's being captured in the notes, but there's always a lot of concerns, and legitimately so. But sometimes it's hard as the mayor's rep to understand which one is a priority from the board. And so because everyone speaks up and expresses their concerns, and we're hearing 5, 6, 7, 8 different issues, we can always go back and get an answer for an issue, but I don't know that always satisfies you as a board. And so maybe trying to figure out if there's a mechanism to say, hey, this is an item that should be a priority to the extent that maybe it does deserve a presentation or more information, would be really a useful way for us to do a better job to give you the information you need. So I just want to raise that and maybe ask the board if there's a mechanism to do that, or if even of the issues raised this evening, if there's one that stands out in particular that you think raises to the level of maybe asking a department to come in versus others that might just be a quick response.
I'm gonna go Department of Transportation.
complete streets.
Yeah, complete streets in general, like, just the overarching process of how those decisions are made, I think would be a good
Sure.
thing to hear.
Sure. And yeah, and with all respect to the kind of the common sense issues that are sometimes raised there, there's a lot that's considered. And I think that those professionals could really shed a lot of light on why they make the decisions they do. So I think it's a great idea. I can certainly reach out to DTS. Actually, I think that's part of the neighborhood board's job, so I'll hold off on that. But
I think what happens, okay, for example, when you're talking about bike lanes,
Mhm.
it's advertised, the bike people all come,
Yep.
right? No one else knows, and I keep talking about this, that there has to be a better means to send information out to the general public that says we're having a public forum on Cook Street. We're gonna put bike lanes. We're gonna do all these things. So then we have that. But right now, what's happening is they're gonna put a bike lane here. Certain individuals that watch it, it goes out.
Mhm.
And those that participate and speak on behalf of in favor are that small select group. And they're not speaking for the rest of
The dogs and animal ones. It's a small group.
So I think that if you can bring back to the mayor,
Mhm.
as we bring up these issues, the board brings up resolutions, we send it to the city council for them to take a look. But at the same time, maybe looking at a better way to communicate rather than just a newsletter, but using a public forum on the television that says, okay, here are some of the things, and on radio, we're going to have a public hearing of this issue here, or this concern, and get the word out. And then you have a better participation for everyone that comes out to voice approval or concerns.
And Mr. Sullivan, if I may add.
Yeah.
By terms of getting the word out there, like, with the urban core, we have a lot of the condominiums utilize the condo control. They advertise
Sure.
all kinds of stuff.
Sure. So great suggestions. I appreciate that. I think maybe the first step in this conversation is to find out what is being done, right? So it's always a baseline exercise of what was done for some of these projects.
Right.
And because your suggestion is it's not adequate, I don't know. I don't know what was done. So I can certainly get that to you. And then we can talk about a future meeting, bringing in someone from DTS. It sounds like your interest is in specifically in kind of the decisions around bike lanes and how, what is the thinking currently, or is it project specific? And is it just Cook Street? Like, I guess for me, again, just trying to zero in because I know I'll be asked these questions.
Like the right turn on Reddit, it appeared overnight.
A couple of other recent decisions that, like, again, as members of the board, like, we didn't,
Right.
might have missed, like, the spreading of information is not like widespread enough for even us to know about it. The chances that the rest of the public
Yep.
is going to is really low, but it's a bunch of selected.
Right.
I can just say, because I'm pretty sure I got this right. A lot of times the decision's already been made, then they tell us. And then at that point, wait a minute. Right, why wasn't there an opportunity for?
So obviously, we want to do a better job communicating always. I will say that one source of information for this particular subject, if you're interested, and I think this is the key, is that often it's not of interest until it becomes something that's not executed to expectations. But there is an annual complete streets report. And that annual complete streets report really telegraphs all the projects that the city is going to do with regards to these type of street improvements. And they start from the planning all the way through construction. And so a project will be in that report for several years. They will say it's in the planning phase. They will say it's in the design phase. They will say it's now in the construction phase. I'm willing to bet, I could be wrong on this, but I'm willing to bet the Cook Street project is in there. I'm not saying that satisfies the need. I'm just saying that is an outlet like you're describing. And so the tricky part for us is to figure out, do we give you an overwhelming amount of information, or how do we find that magic spot?
I think you're hearing us, but, focus on what we're saying. We're saying that if you look at the historical data, historical data says, oh yes, we had meetings set up on this date, this time and all that.
Yep.
But in reality, we're advertising that it's happening. Prior to happening, it's not going on. So one thing that could probably happen, we have a neighborhood commission. This is the eyes and ears for the mayor. We only have a limited budget. I don't know what that is, maybe 1,000 or, it's really minimal. But if the mayor wants us to help with getting the word out,
Mhm.
maybe consider adding a little more budget to all the neighborhood boards. So as we do something, and the good things that the mayor and the city council is doing,
Sure.
as they put information out on their newsletter, right? Because not all those newsletters are going out to everyone. There's a lot of individuals that do not have access to internet. The neighborhood boards can be a sounding board, not just to hear, help promote.
Sure.
And
That's a
the
great idea.
condominiums
Mhm.
all have, like my building has weekly mailings to all the residents and homeowners.
Okay.
And it's like this past 2 weeks, it's been talking about the closure of Alamo Boulevard between Kamakei and Ward. It's
Okay.
really helpful to have that
Okay.
information.
Okay.
And I'm sure that all the GMs of all the buildings would be delighted to receive notices of, there's gonna be
a marathon.
there's gonna be this, there's gonna be a town hall meeting presented by the mayor, there's
So-
gonna be a complete streets meeting, things that impact the community.
So if
The
we,
more, as Lynn says, the more we communicate, the better involvement we get from our community, and it's more equitable that way.
there is no disagreement.
No,
And I hope I'm not projecting any of that because I
No.
really am just trying to understand what the best mechanism is. But a question, and I don't want to take more time because I promised I was going to be quick, but a question would be, so would you expect that we would communicate to the board and then the board would communicate to the condos? Or is there like a magic list somewhere that I'm not aware of? And maybe I don't know if the neighborhood commission has that list of condos, like where that communication happens, because it's not evident to me as an individual
I
within the
can
city.
provide them for Ward Village, Kaka'ako.
Okay.
But I,
Whoever your VIO or your communications officer is.
Sure.
Just so, like, going back to what you were saying, we need to know what is being done.
Right.
And seeing how effective that is, because I know
Right.
there's an email that goes out, and I think it says all board members, so I think most of us get it whenever there's.
That's from the neighborhood commission.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's great, and that just started recently,
Yeah.
a few months ago, and I love
And
it.
it's been
You get
useful.
3 or 4 of them a day, I think it's fast, I share it with local, I send it to.
That's good to know.
Yes, my
That's good to know.
building,
Like,
so they have it, and sometimes they've gotten it, and sometimes they haven't, so
okay.
it's a marvelous.
Okay. So that's something we can bring back to DTS as well, specific to
I
the
do
issue.
think that's helpful. I also think, how do I say this? We live in a very instant information
Yeah.
reality. And a lot of the communications, they're so long, people aren't actually reading them. And yes, emails one, newsletters are another, but really clear, brief, like eye catch, like it sucks that that's the reality that we're in, but like if your information is not eye catching, people are not going to pay attention to it this day. And like I do that, and I think that we as a board, and it's something I want to continue working on in our action committee, underutilize our social media and like ability to share, but so many people, and yes, not all generations or everybody, but there's such a big amount of people that like, I don't feel like I'm on social media a lot more than I would like to be. But I don't see any of that like coming through, and I'm involved in these circles. So if I'm not getting it, chances that a larger percentage of the community is getting it is, again, not nothing, but low.
I just wanted to share that we have a lot of presentations on complete streets, and they never once said, and we're gonna put up a sign that says no right turn on red, because we would have all been like, what? And I'm saying, it's like, so it would be great if you could find that phrase, no right turn on red, in your all plans, look for where they actually try to communicate that. Like that would be a test of how much they're communicating. Regarding presentations, I've been hearing a lot about elders, kahunas who are in these senior housing, or even some of the people in affordable housing projects where the landlord, the developer has gotten tax credits. They turn in how much their income every year. And even though the landlord or the managing agent knows that their income has not gone up, they keep jacking up their rent, which feeds into their food budget. And I'm like, how can they do that? I mean, what is the safe rail or guardrail to keep? You know what I mean? And they're freaking out because they're like, how many more increases do I have to suffer before I can't afford to live here anymore?
And in some cases, they have to make a choice, eat medicine.
Yeah,
Right,
so
that-
is that a city county office that oversees this, or is it HCDA, or is it just
You're
state?
talking about just rent increases and privately owned properties?
Yeah, I'm sure they get some kind of city and county tax breaks.
So whereas designated affordable housing that gets HUD funding or something like that, there's very strict controls over the rent, and those are looked at annually. And those levels those levels are determined on an annual basis and are well publicized. So, but when you get outside of those publicly funded housing, developers and just the private market, which there are some what we call naturally occurring affordable housing, that's whatever somebody wants to do. There are not restrictions, to my knowledge, on what somebody
There's
can increase.
no rent control laws in the state, in the bill that
Well,
was
it's
passed.
not even rent control. It's like, I feel like they've already benefited, like some of these developers are building affordable rentals so they can go build luxury somewhere else.
Right.
Am I wrong? So they've padded a profit into the luxury, but they're getting these the elderly people who are in retirement income and it's not going up. I mean, for them to keep facing $100 a year, $75 a year, and they're there for many years, so all.
If they're designated affordable, that shouldn't be happening. So I can't speak to.
Oh, really?
But I don't know. But I mean, if there's a designated affordable and it's an entitlement, again, this is a little bit outside my wheelhouse, so I want to be careful.
But is there somebody?
But there's a period under which that rent has to stay the same. After a certain term, it turns out. I mean, this is more of a DPP conversation in terms of the entitlements. And so again, bringing the expertise in there is another option, but there's obviously a lot of issues and only so many meetings. So just again, back to priorities, but this is obviously another important one, and it's definitely in my notes, and I'm sure it's in the notes for tonight.
And I would just add that I only have the experiences that I live in restricted housing and have for the past 6 years as a teacher because I don't get teachers sick, but my rent hasn't changed. So it's been like stable for the last 4 years at least. But the challenge that I see in neighborhoods is with all of these high rises, I don't know how much of their units have to be a certain percentage of AMI, but I see a ton of 80% and 100% AMI units and none that are actually offered in like the lower income brackets. And 80% AMI at this point is $75,000.
Right.
So where are the affordable housing units for anybody making less than that?
Right.
Because on mine, again, it's, I pay the same amount I always have, it's 80% AMI. And then, but there's a minimum that you have to make too. So if I don't make that much, I can't even live there.
So I want to go back to chair because
Yeah,
I'm way over my time. And I know there's other elected representatives that want to maybe present to you.
Just in short. Good thing is the mayor and the governor appear to be working together. That is something that is awesome. And so as you take back to the mayor, we hear what's going on, they're reporting back. This neighborhood board, like other neighborhood boards, we are concerned and to help this mayor to do more things for the people. It's not just the individual issue. We have to look at the bigger picture and how we can work to help the mayor and the city council and our representatives to get the word out to the people. That's communication.
I would say this, like all the individual issues, what's the bigger picture that we need to better understand how it's trickling down to us? And that's the question that we want to have answered by the mayor. I think is the best way I can do that.
So I think from the conversation, probably DDP please raise.
Right. Those two, and likely not the same meeting, given that you have other agenda items to bring up as well. Okay.
Thank you for looking at that question.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Appreciate being here. Let me slowly get up again and see if I can make my way out.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Could be
Thank you.
1 July.
Hey, let's see that.
Thanks, Ben.
Council members say, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much. Let me just clarify information for all of you. This particular area is considered what part of the jurisdiction? Who has jurisdiction over this area? HCDA? Or the city?
Commercially and city at some point. Yeah.
Okay, at that point in time, all Mackay, I would say HCDA.
Right. That was the thought.
Okay.
My point to you this evening is that what is the agency that does the finance for all of the developers?
Isn't it all over the minutes? Isn't it state legislature and city council?
No, the city, as far as Calvin said, I'm the zoning chair.
Right.
I don't have the financing. The financing is done by HHFDC. Who is HHFDC? That's the education that you folks are missing.
What is it again?
HHFDC. Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation. They adopt a project, they send it to the city for the building permit side. Or were you folks aware the past 3 years about 201H? What is 201H? It's a state law that mandates the city to provide exemptions on park dedication, sewer fees, water hookup, height and width. That's the 201H that Calvin said got criticized. We did it, we had to do it in 45 days or else we don't get any affordable housing. The other point this evening too, I wanted to share, and I did talk to the director. Did you know that any affordable housing project approved by HHFDC, it's a property tax exemption for 10 years? Wow, it's right. So you can see how much the city has given back in trying to develop affordable housing. I just wanted to share all of this is because sometimes it's so frustrating for all of you, and you're correct. I'm going to go back tomorrow to ask my staff, contact HCDA to get all the projects in Kakanko that they approved. They approved it. On Kapilani, it's a city and county. Moana? I don't know that there's the bond could be up to King Street now. Or no, or then you have the others. Right.
Each one is different. It's what you go thinking, sir. It's a hodgepodge. And one of the things that we, and maybe other neighborhood board can have, is maybe a cheat sheet. That kind of,
My staff is listening, so that.
Yeah, but that is kind of important, because as we are listening.
Deliberating, yes, because I got upset these past 3 years when I respect my friends at HCDA transferring Rodney, Kathy, the roads to the city and county. I cannot even handle what we have today, and we're taking in more.
Because you can.
How can I, Lee?
No,
Because, 3 years ago, as a budget chair, I got criticized by saying, yeah, I'm so happy. You know why, Emma? We had an increase in the assessments, if you folks recall, which raised the real property taxes. Assessment valuation versus rates. The council did not touch any of the rates. It was just the assessment valuation that went up. That became a windfall, but that money was used to pay the back collective bargaining agreements during COVID. Look how fast we could get just 2 years ago. We just got through with COVID or a year ago. And now we are struggling as far as the county because what Mr. Kawano and Mr. Takara and Mr. Peterson, the issue in regards to FRF, ARPA funds, federal monies. The state was very fortunate during COVID to generate, I don't know, Sharon, almost over 5 billion in federal money. But that's monies that we are not going to receive anymore. With that money, it was translated into the general excise tax, to the income tax, and the city and county doesn't get anything. We got money, don't get me wrong.
Need it.
Absolutely right, because I can't just say,
Everybody needs it.
so long story short, I think you have to address it through the federal funding grant program. You folks all who were here before, Rodney, you would know Who is the person that does the safe streets, complete streets? Renee Espial. Right? So what I'm getting at is that, yeah, perseverance, continuity, and being consistent is a big part in learning what we have done the past years. So this is my 3.5 year being on the council, and I've really enjoyed it. But it's been a very tough journey for me because I can see what you folks all need. It's first and foremost our first responders asking, officer, lieutenants, Segriso, right? Then your fire, then your Opala, then your ambulance, then your sewer workers. It's endless because that's what the city's responsibility is. And I'm not faulting anyone, but I am concerned with what you stated, Emma, about how things are going to be in the future. All developers are requesting that, 60% of the units that we build will be for affordable. So what is affordable, Kathy, as a chair? It's based upon the AMI, average median income of that particular area. And for Emma, if it's gonna be 40% AMI and below, that's what we call public housing. Palolo housing, Mayor Rights, Hill Park Terrace, Kalakaua housing for our seniors. That I would say affordable. From this 40 to 80%, that's supposed to be part of the workforce. And that's another big issue because for me personally, it seems like inflation has caused a lot of problems for us financially, the cost of it today. And I can sympathize with what Ben was saying, the seniors. I think I'll have to work till I die. Or you know what? I get my Social Security. I took it at 70, so I maxed out. I got my state retirement at the state at 72,000. And that's it, plus my salary that I have at the council. So in closing, it's really fascinating and enjoyable. Don't get me wrong by just being an educator of what is really happening with you. Yeah. So any other questions, please, but the state has Hawaii Community Development Authority and HHFDC, the financing arm.
One
Yeah.
thing I think we can help.
Yeah.
Back with the city council, particularly with the mayor. As you can see, we are set up to be the eyes and ears for the city council. And that is that if it's possible, when sometimes the neighborhood boards get together and write a resolution, you folks read it and you punch all that out. But when it comes time for the actual vote out of the committees, it's reading 2 or 3 times. Putting that, and I know most of you are doing so, don't make this wrong, adding that more common sense aspect, because at the end of the day, if common sense is not used, we have things like Cook Street, we have things like Pensacola, and we're talking about these things. The next thing you know is, like we talked about the bike lane of Pensacola, don't put it on the Ever side, put it on the Waikiki side. And what did they do? Overnight, put it on the Ever side. And that continues to have a problem, particularly when it marries up,
So when that happens, just shoot us a fast email and we can get it to Roger Moore.
Yeah. And I mentioned before, like the crooked street sign, the lanes.
Yes.
Now it's happening all over the island.
Well, I'm really sorry, but I don't know what to say because when I drive in Kaka'ako, the lanes are totally different from what you have with the county. Why you guys not?
It's all.
You guys are part of the community.
We were just as surprised as you were.
And that's where your communication to, who's that young lady that always attends the board meeting from HCDA? Francine Murray. And that's where maybe you have to Sharon can invite Craig Nakamoto to come and explain. I don't know why the plans and design of the road were like that, but I get the calls too. You see. Okay, Emma.
Yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to share, and I think it's from, Ben and from this too, is you know, it is collective, but when I'm sitting here and I consider myself, and I was telling Kim this, but I consider myself a relatively educated woman.
Yes.
And for me to keep up with all of this and understand how to function within our society would take hours more of study. And I'm willing to do it as a member of this, but just the functionality of our systems are so complex at this point that people cannot function within them without being really putting a lot of effort into public education. And we are not doing that at any level.
I'm sorry, because.
No, I'm not saying and it's not you. I'm just saying like coming from the
Public
city council,
education,
like.
I have to defer to Senator, right? Yeah.
And again, I come from a background of being an educator, so that's why, so that's what it's like. Yeah, I know it's beyond you. I'm just saying,
No,
like,
no,
that's what I
it's
see as an overarching
I'm
issue.
sure
And and it starts in our K-12 system.
But I just wanted to just highlight some of the issues that you folks are talking this evening.
Thank you.
And how we could try to resolve it. But you're correct. We have worked very well with the mayor and the council, along with the administration at the state level, Governor Green. I think Governor Green began to appreciate it because he was in the legislature to understand what you folks go through. But in closing, I wanted to say thank you very much, and I'll see you folks next month, and you folks do have my report.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And just say.
Hello, hi everyone. So to start off my report, oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead.
Continue. So our first request that was sent into our office was from Jeff Mers, who is a member of the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. He asked for outreach and a possible removal of an encampment at a bus stop number 954. And so far, there has been outreach to that person. They have been removed and services were provided. And the Department of Community Services has been advised to check on that area to make sure if individuals are there that they are provided services and yeah. So number two, there was a riser that was submitted to our constituent services director to extend the 7 p.m. closure of Kaka'aka Waterfront Park. The departments will have to see on extending the closure time. We're not sure if that request will be approved or not, but that was sent into our office. And relevant to our discussion this evening was dog parks. I don't know if Chair Lee received Councilmember Tyler Santos Thames' letter on any recommendations the board can provide on a potential on-leash dog park. I know Sergeant Segusio, he actually had a really good recommendation, which is to kind of fence off a part of Pi'ikoi in Moana Beach Park where dogs could be allowed on leash. So I'll take that suggestion back to council member, but if anyone else has any further recommendations on any on leash dog parks, we would be willing to listen to those. And yeah, that's my report for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions to the board? Member Rice. Thank you, Robert. This is Jeannie Rice. I would like to get in touch with your office to have a more in-depth conversation about the dog. So I'll be reaching out to you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, we are now at the 8:40 mark. We'll keep going. Representative Nishimoto or Taylor?
I see Rep. Nishimoto online. Representative, you're on mute.
Oh, I don't think she can hear us.
I don't think he heard you.
Rep. Nishimoto, you're on mute. Everybody's on there. Hey.
Chair, I'm so sorry. I think he's frozen. So can you guys go to the other representatives? One
Thank you,
moment.
Taylor.
Thank you.
Representative Adrian Tam.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I don't really have a report. We tried to go through any of our constituents' log to see if there's anything that came up in the area that I represent. Currently, we haven't done anything in the past month because no one has brought any issues up to us. But if you do have an issue in that area, which is the Atkinson area, please let me know so we can try to address this as fast as we can. Other than that, I want to let everyone know that our office is partnering up with Rotary to do a school supply drive for Jefferson Elementary School. We have locked down July 11th. Hold on, let me just put up the thing again. So July 11th from 9 o'clock to 2 p.m. From the morning to afternoon. Come by, drop off some school supplies. I know our students will really appreciate it. Again, that's July 11th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Other than that, that's my report, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Rep. Tam. Questions? Okay. Speaker Skazaki.
Okay, thanks, Chair. We did adjourn our legislative session a few weeks ago, and there were some really important bills that we approved. Let's highlight a few of them. One was in the area of pedestrian safety. So as you know, every single member of the legislature has been really impacted by what happened at McKinley High School a year and a half ago. And so we were focused on pedestrian safety measures this year. We did approve with the work of Representative Tam Nishimoto, Senator Moriwaki. We approved legislation that will elevate repeat driving without a license offender to a Class C felony. So currently it's a misdemeanor, but it will be increased to a Class C felony. We also approved legislation to add a speed camera to red light cameras. So the red light cameras that are in place will now be monitoring drivers who are speeding. And that's really important because a lot of the accidents that occur now are the result of speeding. And so it'll be really important for us to monitor not just red light violations, but also speeding violations. And as you know, the stats show us that ever since we have instituted red light cameras, that accidents have decreased in those areas. We're fortunate that of the 10 locations where red light cameras have been implemented over the past year, the 3 of those cameras are in our community. So we have 30% of the red light cameras in our district, thanks to the work of our legislative delegation on that issue. We also approved legislation to authorize the Department of Transportation to lower speed limits in school zones. So this is really important because we want the state DOT to monitor accidents that are occurring in school zones and to make the adjustments when it comes to speeding in those areas. So we'll make it easier for them to just unilaterally lower speed limits. So all of these measures are designed to promote pedestrian safety for not just those individuals who are in school zones, but outside of school zones. And I have to say that the red light camera system program, which is a pilot program, we approved the pilot program a couple of years ago. The red light cameras are really, really important because they have reduced pedestrian accidents over the past couple of years. in the areas where they have been implemented. So I want to thank the neighborhood board and the community for its support of our red light camera program. It's very, very important for our community to increase pedestrian safety in those areas. We also, the governor also signed a bill into law today, which will increase housing ADU development in the state. The legislation is a Senate Bill 3202, and that bill is designed to set forth a state policy that there should be 2 ADUs on residential lots that are determined to be suitable by the county governments. So once this bill is signed, it was signed into law today, the county councils will have 2 years to either implement their own rules when it comes to implementing 2 ADUs on residential lots. If the councils do not do that, then the state law will take effect. We felt that this was a really important piece of legislation because it was time for the state to really kind of assert what the state policy should be when it comes to development on residential lots. This bill does preserve home rule. It allows the counties to approve or deny permits, construction permits on these lots. It allows the counties to set the parameters and the restrictions on what kind of lots can be developed. But the bill basically just sets a policy that we should allow for more ADUs on residential lots. So again, as I mentioned, that bill was signed, the governor signed that bill into law today. So thank you also to the neighborhood board for your support of this legislation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for being this evening. I appreciate it. Board questions?
Yeah, what was the number of the building again?
The housing bill? 32, Senate Bill 3202.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Rice.
Good evening, Speaker. Question about crosswalks and student safety. Has there ever been any idea that's been floated up to have crossing guards to help in high trafficked areas like Kapiolani Boulevard and Pensacola from McKinley? It's very common on the mainland, and a lot of it is volunteers, but they go through a training program with the police department. And they're wearing vests and they have flags or signs, and they guide the students to either side of the street, which is another way of highlighting to the motorists that, hey, there are people walking. Has that ever been given any thought that you're aware of?
I know that there have been proposals in the past to create like flag programs and crossing guard programs, but they haven't really advanced. Probably just due to the cost of a program like that, and that's why we've had we've approved legislation to allow for automated systems. But we also have, the DOT has been pretty creative. They've implemented flashing lights and flag systems at different intersections. In fact, we'll soon be seeing a new crosswalk in Kakako at the Kolowalu Park area. The construction is underway now to enhance the crosswalk there by installing a flashing light and an island for pedestrians. So there'll be a pedestrian island there as well. But I think there's different ways of addressing crosswalk safety. So we'll see. We can continue to propose crossing guards, but in the meantime, automated systems, flashing lights, flag systems may be beneficial.
I think the flashing lights are the best. So thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. We are now at the 8:59 mark. We have to do this real quick, and thank you for your patience for people who are still here, because you do need to get out of here by 9 p.m. Senator from Milwaukee.
We're next.
You have my, oh. We got my report. So you have, most of the bill, all of these bills, passed. And I kind of, categorized it for you in terms of crime, homeless, excessive noise, the kinds of problems that you folks have brought up. So you can study this. These are all, except those that say Act 18, for example, the Kapuna bills, they have been signed into law. So those are laws already, the ones that are acts. And the rest of them are in front of the governor and await signing. Hopefully, if any of these interest you, do write into the governor so that we can make sure he doesn't veto it.
So the acts are signed,
Yeah,
all of the other ones have not yet been.
Yeah, they're in front of him.
So the weed whacker for excessive noise, does that include blowers too?
Yeah, yeah. It's all of the, yeah. But the only way we could pass, that is that we had to limit it, by the hours. So that's, we got to work with all the other members, to get stuff passed. I do want to address a couple of things, maybe out of my bailiwick, but when you talked about traffic, we have, as Speaker said, he worked really hard on getting these bills and for us to get both sides to pass the bills. But some of these are really, to answer your question, Emma, what is the city's, and to answer, council members say, there are jurisdictions, and that's what makes it sort of difficult. So let me just real quickly explain HCDA's role and the city. So there's a city and there's a state. So what HCDA is, it's a special community development district created by law as a state district. So everything in the city is all city. So roads are all city. So when they say improve the roads, it's really city's jurisdiction. It's not HCDA, sorry, but it's not HCDA. HCDA will work with the city because it's in the HCDA territory, which is a Kaka'ako Community Development District. And there are bounds to that. But in terms of city roads, it really is city roads. And there were private streets before, and this is when the state said, let's get these private streets as public streets. Moana, so that became the State Department of Transportation because it first gets transferred to the state, but the state then transferred it over to the city because these were all roads. So let me just say that when you invite Department of Transportation Services, which is a city department, also invite Department of Design and Construction. So just to tell you that agencies don't work together unless you ask them to. So you've got the planning done by Department of Transportation, or the council may say, do this. Then the Department of Transportation Services says, okay, this is the plan. And it may be a long range plan or a shorter range plan. But what you're talking about when you're saying left-hand turn, where's the bike lane and so forth, the Transportation Services, okay, this is the plan. And Department of Design and Construction comes in and they put it in someplace. And I don't know if it connects. I'm not sure. This is not my bailiwick, but if you get the two of them together here.
This is an issue, I think, that the state can put in, only, well, because there's got to be an organization, like a ombudsman, something, that can tie all those together.
But, okay, so can I just interrupt you there because there's a thing called home rule. And I'm really conscious of it because we don't want to oversee and tell the counties what to do. I mean, I think there's a fine line between that. So for me, as Speaker said, we passed this law on the ADUs, the auxiliary, and that was to say, okay, counties,
Okay, we said, let's let the counties do that. Similarly to the short-term rentals, let's have the counties do that, because why should we say what Maui does is the same as what Oahu does? So again, it's a fine line. When do we come in? It's like condos. Condos cannot get along. Do we want the state to regulate condos even more? And so it's a really balancing of all of that. So you look at whose jurisdiction is it? If it's a city role, the city should, and even if it's in Kaka'ako Community Development District, Kaka'ako HCDA is in charge of zoning. So they tell you can build this, you can build high, wide, whatever. So those are zoning laws, different from streets and sewers and roads, streets, roads. But all of those are then city. So it is complicated. But again, if you look at what is public works, that's the city. So the way that the State Department of Transportation comes into play is highways, because we get federal monies for highways. So Moana Boulevard, Nimitz Highway, is something that you can complain to the Department of Transportation in the state. But most of the roads in Kaka'ako and Kali, it's all private. I mean, not private, it's all public roads. They're the smaller ones. And so when there's a left-hand turn or it's a street needs, has all these potholes, you go to a city. So I just wanted to make that clear in terms of getting, kind of a big picture view of who to go to complain.
No, I hear what you're saying. I think like when it comes down to it for me is like, you guys are keeping it in the city's hands. And I think our question is, why is the neighborhood at the even lower level not a part of that? It's like that filter down system of what makes sense for, you guys are saying you want to keep that in the counties because, who are we to say? It's like, it kind of feels similar. It's like all these things are happening, but there's no say really coming from the neighborhood community.
So I think the neighborhood board is more affixed to the city. So when we come in, we kind of say, okay, here are some state laws, but the state laws we have are like traffic or crime, it's like all of that at that level. But then the county police department, if it's crimes, or the county Department of Planning and Permitting, it's like general rules that we can say, or general laws that we can say. But then the execution and how it affects local communities, that's all in the general plan of the city. So I just wanted to clarify that, but even I want to just say one more thing about what. Yeah. Am I out of time? So. Yeah.
Motion that we suspend with the rest of the untalked about of the agenda, so we can adjourn, because we're already.
Okay. I can talk to you.
So that's my motion, is that we suspend the remaining agenda items and carry that over to the next board meeting.
Sure. Okay, so I just want to check, because I know I saw Ms. Marissa Gonzalez as well as media member of BCCH meeting. Would that be all right with you? I think because we are going to make it our face.
Yeah.
No, because.
Is there a second?
Second. Francine, are you there?
HCDA.
Yes, I'm okay with that. I put in the newsletter, so I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, so any opposition?
No.
Okay.
Can I just say one thing for these? When I came on the board almost 3 years ago, I just was welcomed, please sit down and join the party. But I had no education. What Sharon Moriwaki just shared with us was so helpful. And I think I think we should go out to the chair of the neighborhood commission and say, when there's a new board member, they should be required, in a sense, to go to an educational class for a half a day, whatever the case may be, so we can understand how this place works. What are the various levels? You said in 5 minutes, really clarified a lot, because that was fairly new. I still consider myself a newbie. And I think for all of us, it was extremely helpful, and there's got to be more information that would be very helpful.
I need a flow chart.
Yeah, I think maybe something like that could be done because it's, you have all these agencies come and they give you reports, but what does it mean that?
Right, and like when one changes, who does that go
Yeah.
to next? And like who all has to agree or?
Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Go
all,
ahead and adjourn the meeting for this evening. Thank you all for being here.
So,
all education.
yeah, so that's,
Like
yeah,
Sorry to do that, but yeah.
no, I don't mind, because, yeah, no.